per the new normal, are my co-hosts Jake Domanski and Rob Morrissey. Jake, I'll ask you first. How are you doing?
Doing well. I opt
wait.
out of being a co-host. I'm a permanent guest or just a guest.
I feel like the liability on this podcast is significantly lower than the Buttery
Yeah,
Mills.
but
I
if
think
I'm a
it's
guest, I
okay.
don't always have to be present. In case I'm getting annoyed about wanting to go shopping during the weekend.
That's fair. So you're annoyed.
Don't you just
That's
hate
okay.
having to do anything other than go to your job on the work days?
I actually do.
Okay.
Rob,
Well,
how
I
are
know.
you doing?
I'm fine. Just, keeping the buzz going.
For our listeners don't know, we recorded a very late night episode of the Buttery Mills, the other podcast that we do, last night. We finished at like 2, 3 in the morning, I think. And so we're all feeling it a little bit. But Rob just decided to keep the party going all night, apparently.
Yeah, this is just
so-
what I do now. This is my new groove. Like the Emperor.
So by the time you're listening to this, I think it should be out.
I will still be drunk.
That episode that we're talking about, where we all got a little shit faced. I think it'll. I don't know. Go listen to it'll be out eventually at some point. So go listen to the Buttery Mills podcast episode with Three Little Pigs Dave. That was a fun recording. I don't know when it'll be out in relation to this, but that's why we're all a little bit more lower energy than we would otherwise be. But we're still going to talk about some cool movies today. Or at least from the sound of it, one cool movie, because we all had a lot to say about Jeremiah Johnson when we were texting and the preamble before and after the Buttery Mails last night. So I guess, do we want to start there, or do we want to save that for the big finale?
I don't. I mean,
Yeah, I
we
don't
can
care.
talk about
It's whatever.
whatever you want. Do you want to talk about politics first, or
So the 2024 election is coming out down the pipeline, and I'm a little bit worried about that now. No, we can talk about. I think we'll probably have the most to say about Jeremiah Johnson, so let's save that till the end. I guess we can start off with the movie Rob recommended us, because I think it's a movie that I think had all definitely seen prior to his recommendation, but it was a good refresher. Ari Aster's Midsommar. I don't know if you guys tracked down the special version that Rob had mentioned in particular. I couldn't find it, so I just watched the regular Midsommar. But Rob, tell us a little bit about this movie for anyone who's not familiar.
Yeah, this movie is great. And back to you.
All right, so if you want to watch
it's,
if you want to watch Midsommar, it's available on Amazon Prime, and yeah, that's our opinion on it. It's great.
Yeah.
So the next movie we recommended is no, tell us what
it's about. It's about a girl played by or a woman played by Florence Pugh, right? That's how you say her name.
Yeah.
It's Florence Pug.
Whatever. So it's the movie is about her. She's a grad student who is in kind of like a toxic relationship with a dude who kind of like just a neutral, not good person. And in the very beginning of the film, spoiler alert, she gets this wild email from her sister who's like, they never really explain what is going on with her, but she's got like pretty deep mental health issues, and
She's bipolar. They do say.
Oh, they do? It's
Yeah.
just bipolar. Okay. What version of the movie did you watch? Anyway, she gets this email from her sister being like, I can't take it anymore. I'm checking out, and I'm taking mom and dad with me.
Yeah,
and
she says it's all dark, or I can't see anything. It's all dark. I'm leaving, and I'm taking mom and dad with me. It's pretty close to what it was, which is not a great email to receive from a sibling.
Yeah,
Especially
not
considering it opens with "I hope this email finds you well," and
Yeah.
you know.
By the way, it's all dark. I'm going. I'm
so
taking mom and dad with me.
the
Okay.
the the emails
Rough
prompt
day, sis? You have a rough day?
kind of prompt like some swift action from the sister, but only swift to the extent that like she doesn't live near her parents. She's not within like driving distance, or she has no real way to intervene with any potential thing that's going to happen. And her sister's not replying to her emails or phone calls, and her parents aren't answering the phone. And so she calls her boyfriend, who is, again, just kind of like a neutral asshole. Like, not the worst person in the world, but like
Their
not a good
relationship is kind of on the rock. He's been meaning to break up with her, and actually prior,
for
like,
some
but
time.
yeah, he like while she's getting these emails, he's out with buddies and they're like talking about how he's gonna finally do it. He's gonna break up with her, and they're like, yeah, dude, you got to do it. You got to do what you got to do. And then he gets a phone call from her, and it's not a good phone call.
Yeah, well, she has been calling him throughout the night while he's out with his friends, and he is playing, he's trying to be supportive to the extent he can, but clearly he does not give that much of a shit, and just kind of tells her, hey, your sister, she does this, right? Like, this isn't any different than any of the other times your sister has, like, sent
He's
crazy
pretty shitty about it,
emails
because
and-
he tells her, like, if she didn't reach out or whatever, like, this behavior would stop. Like,
right.
she keeps like letting
You're
her,
enabling this kind
this
of
behavior.
yeah, which is so shitty
because you're
to
feeding
say.
into it, and
Yeah.
and it's if it's not great. So yeah, they go off the
Babe,
phone,
I understand how the
and,
world works, babe. You don't get it. I
Right.
totally get it. Like, that's his
I-
vibe, basically, the whole movie. It's
well, and his friends, his friends are very much, at least one in particular is just like majorly pissed that he's even bothering to answer the phone for his girlfriend who's distraught, and he answers the phone again, and they are fucking not happy about it. And moments after kind of telling Florence Pugh, like, hey, just don't even worry about it, everything's gonna be fine, I'm sure everything will be okay. Gets a phone call with her just screaming like a banshee, like horrific blood-curdling screeches into the phone. And it turns out that in one of the most like aggressive murder scenes ever maybe depicted in a movie, it gives me chills every time watching it. You see the aftermath of her sister having taken two hoses hooked up to the cars in the garage at their parents' house, and running one hose from the exhaust of the cars into her parents' room and taping the door, like sealing the door tight with tape to fill their room with carbon monoxide and kill them. And the camera follows the second hose line through the house, and it ultimately leads to the sister who has the hose duct taped into her own mouth. And
That's very horrific.
It's horrific. It's truly one of like the most disturbing things I've ever seen on camera.
Yeah.
And like there's bad gore and bad stuff like that in other movies, but like there's something really about that specific shot of her sister with the hose duct taped, like hose in mouth, duct tape wrapped around her head, as if basically to like deny her any possibility of changing her mind. She's decided this is happening, there's no going back, and I have to
there's some scary scenes in this movie, but this is by far like the scariest scene in the movie for me, and also
first 5
like
minutes.
you said, it's egregious. It's because you see the aftermath of what was a struggle. Like there's like puke all over her shirt and all over her mouth and face from like it just choking her out basically with the exhaust. It's fucking horrendous. You can tell like her eyes like got fucked up from lack of oxygen. It's so insane, and that's like one thing. Like I think Ari Aster is like probably one of the best like horror directors of our time, and he's able to just do this in his movies where it's like that was really fucking intense. Like it's portrayed in the most graphic way possible. And you don't see it happen. Once again, this is just the aftermath. You're just seeing.
It's shocking. Wow. It's a really strong start to a movie like this where it's like the movie overall is like deeply unforgiving to the audience. And this is almost just like the calling card in the beginning of the movie, just being like, hey, anybody who wants out now.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like this is,
he kind of has.
You've got very little time.
It's been a while since I've seen Hereditary, but doesn't it also open with a similar? Like I think it's the funeral that it opens up with, right? Where like Toni Collette is like screaming over like, "Oh my, I have to bury my mom," and how horrific this is. Like Ari Aster really likes to open up with like a very uncomfortable vibe for his.
I don't
his
think
movies.
it's like that in Hereditary.
I thought that. Okay, well.
Nah, because I'm pretty sure
like
Toni Collette's character, like with her mom, the relationship there is like a little distant. So she's not crying that. She's crying when the daughter dies like that. She's like wailing.
That's what I could be thinking of.
Yeah.
The point being, Ari Aster is very good at making you feel as uncomfortable as possible very, very fast.
Yeah, Florence Pugh's wailing
and it's
deeply. Like, it's the most realistic, like, I've seen, unfortunately, someone wail like this over the loss of their children in real life. Sorry to get insanely dark. It is accurate. It is spot on. It's horrifying. It's the worst noise you could hear, and he nailed it in this movie. It's fucked up.
For someone who wails as much as she does in the movie, it better be believable. And it is.
Lot of wailing in this movie, honestly.
Yeah.
Like it's I think Florence Pugh is like great in everything she's done,
She
but
is
like
fantastic. Yeah.
this movie really is she's spot on. And her character is like it's a really deep emotional role. And she just fucking like nails every second of it the whole way through. So that's just like the opening, that's where you're at 5 minutes into the movie. And, I think, so I didn't rewatch this I rewatched this movie like 2 weeks ago. So I'm not, I don't have my normal level of knowing it off the top of my head that I normally do because I watch all the movies the night before regularly. But there's a time jump in the film. If one of you wants to, if you guys know what the time jump is, I don't remember
the exact amount of
4
time.
months or something.
It's only like a few weeks go by. I'm pretty sure.
A few weeks.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's
and
time
the
jump and her boyfriend is now like we said, like he's been looking for a way out, and now he's kind of like, well, fuck, I don't have a way out because she's just had this traumatic thing happen. I got to be there for her. I'm kind of stuck. He's like, he's caring for her, but he's doing it in a very like I have to do this because would be a dick move of me not to. It's
also somehow even shittier,
right?
He chose to stick around like for the it's rough. It's
So like the Swedish friend has like this sort of like this festival in his community back in Sweden that he's been telling his new American buddies about, and they've all been like, oh hell yeah man, we're gonna go to Sweden, we're gonna have to fuck some Swedish chicks, we're gonna backpack through Europe, it's gonna be great. And then Florence Pugh, is she offered to come along, or does she just kind of go, oh, I didn't realize you were leaving without me? And then I think that's
so
like
there's an argument between the two of them where he's leaving in like I think like 4 weeks, and she's like, well, you didn't tell me you were going. He's like, yeah, no, I told you they were going. And she's like, well, you didn't tell me you were going. And it's clearly just one of those toxic relationship things where it's like, oh, you guys don't communicate with each other to begin with. And also Florence Pugh is going through like a deep emotional crisis right now, and so like she just she's not handling the idea that this guy that she's leaning on is about to disappear to Europe for like a whole month without her. And so he ends up going to his friends and saying to his friends, hey, so I invited her, but she's not gonna come. And his friends are like, what do you mean? Like, that's not, he's like, don't worry. Like, don't worry. I invited her, but she's gonna say no. And then there's like a knock on the door, and he's like, okay, that's her. And they're like, what the fuck do you mean that's her?
Yeah.
Like, there's, what do you mean she's like, so he's a shitty guy. Like, he's lying to Florence Pugh, he's lying to his friends, he's just, you know, he's trying to like make everything work out in a way where he doesn't have to be a bad guy. And when she comes into the apartment after he tells his friends, like, don't worry, she's not coming, immediately she's like, so Sweden, I'm excited. And it's like, oh man, you know, that's
shit.
So yeah, they so without, you know, I'm trying not to do that thing we did with Porco Rosso where we just beat by beat do the whole thing, but
well, that's your setup. That if you haven't seen Midsommar, which again, if you're listening to this podcast, you had an entire month. You have no excuse to not watch these movies. So that's your, like, if you have not seen Midsommar, that is your final go see it. We've given you the non-spoilery setup. We're about to spoil the shit out of it in 3, 2, 1. You have been warned. So yeah, so they go on the trip, and it does not go well for them at all. Like, it's not really a therapeutic backpack through Europe, enjoy the sights kind of vacation.
Yeah, actually, Rob, I wanted to ask you this because and this is all parody, obviously, but you like to do mushrooms allegedly, and did you ever watch this movie like High on Mushrooms allegedly?
No, I never would allegedly do that ever. This is
because it is a trippy movie, folks. Like, they're constant when they get to this place, which is it's a horror movie shot in like full bright as fuck daytime, which I actually like that. I think that's cool. But they're like tripping basically most of the time they're at this festival thing. So like the visuals are really cool in this movie. You see it like kind of through their perspective a lot of times. Everything's breathing and like wavy. If you've ever tripped on shrooms, it's kind of accurate. It's pretty close.
There's a lot of stuff in this movie that it's subtle enough that you see something, you're like, wait, what the was that? And
which is also something Ari Aster is very good at in Hereditary as well, where it's like, did that happen? Is that okay? I think it did.
There's the movie does a lot. It also just it has the characters taking a lot of like hallucinogens, and the festival they go to is like this weird like Amish community basically where it's pretty clear that it's basically like Swedish European Amish people. Like it's
not literally Amish people, folks, but yeah, it's similar.
Pretty close. Yeah. Like, you know, and a lot of what happens is just these Americans who are brought there by members of the village are basically just like, at first everything is very normal, right? It's very much like, oh, this is just like we do arts and crafts and we do some weird ceremonies, and then it takes like an immediate turn without any real warning. Like, you know, there's something weird going on, but the movie takes an insane turn where there's a ritual they do where I think it's at age 77, members of the village basically sacrifice themselves by jumping off a cliff to their deaths, which is very off-putting for all the Americans. And I think the two British travelers who were there as well. And that is kind of just the beginning of this whole snowball effect of like every scene, shit just gets like worse and worse for everybody involved.
There's a lot of gaslighting in this movie. The whole
Lot of
There's
community-
so much gaslighting.
The whole-
By everyone. Everyone. Like, besides Florence, like, Pugh's character, she's just like, I'm just, like, fucking a stove. I'm just getting gaslit.
And like, you know, she's also this, like, magnet for emotional abuse in a weird way for most of the movie. And, you know, some of the people start disappearing, and as they start disappearing, the villagers always have, like, great reasons for, oh no, they just, like,
They're not so great, though, honestly. Like, they're honestly quickly picked apart by most people listening to them. They're like, that doesn't make any sense what you're saying, and they're just like,
yeah, but
they're
you're
so
still
good
not
at
gonna leave.
gaslighting. Really, is like the problem. They're just like, no, like, I promise you, like, the truck will be here. You'll be fine.
You'll be
that's
fine.
the one that, dude.
Can you just get into this bear costume though? In the meantime, like
All right,
while you're
this
waiting
looks
for that
good
truck?
on you. This bear costume looks good on you, dude.
That one, that
Bizarre.
one with the truck. So the two British tourists who are there, they get split up at a certain point because they want to leave, right? They're trying to leave.
After
they're
seeing
not-
the people throw themselves off a cliff and then get their heads smashed in with a giant wooden mallet, they're a little uncomfortable with what's happening.
They're also there
they've had
because the member of the village who brought them there. So the two Brits are like, it's a like soon to be married couple, and the guy who brings them there is the brother of the guy who brings the Americans there.
Pele.
And that
Pele's
guy,
our guy that we see first.
yeah, his Pele's brother brings these two people there, and it's like the girl in the relationship, he's clearly got a crush on, to even in the beginning when he introduces these two British people to everyone. He's like, yeah, you know, her and I used to date before these two got together. And immediately she's like, no, we didn't. What do you mean? Like, we were just friends. I know you liked me, but yeah, we were never dating at all. And he's like, yeah, anyway. So those two,
like, under his breath, soon you'll be dead, so what does it matter?
Yeah.
What'd you say? Nothing?
You'll be mine in death. I mean, get in this bear costume.
Well, that's the other thing.
Yeah, he keeps trying to put people in bear costumes. Hey, what about this bear costume? Shut up!
It'll come
Enough
up
with
at
the bear costume.
it'll come up at the end, but like Pele is not, he's the only one in the group who's not unhappy that Florence Pugh is there. And it's because it seems like he has a crush on Florence Pugh, and I get the feeling that him and his brother both brought these women to this village with these guys that they're, you know, entangled with, knowing the guys are going to die, and there's an off chance that the girls may end up getting indoctrinated into the village, you know, at the end of the film, which would give them a shot with them. But the two Brits decide they've had enough, and they get split up, and the girl goes to get her like backpack and stuff from this communal living house in the middle of the village. And she, you know, tells Florence Pugh, I'm going, this place is fucked, you should leave too. And as she's like running out to like go find her guy, one of the villagers like comes up to her and is like, oh yeah, your fiance, he just got in the truck with Sven, and they're going to the train station, and they said, you know, just hang out here and the truck will come back to bring you to the train station separately. And she's like,
totally normal, like makes a lot
totally,
of sense.
yeah.
Like, just don't
She's
think
like,
about it. Have some more
that's
mushrooms.
not, yeah. It's like, she's like, he wouldn't have done that. Why would he do that? And they're like, oh, well, you know, the train is like leaving soon, so they had to get going right away. And you know, there's not enough room in the truck for 3 people. And she's like, well, I would have just like sat on his lap or something. And they're like, oh, well, you know, us Swedes take traffic laws, you know, really
Very
to heart.
seriously.
Yeah, and that's illegal. So, you know, it's just pure gaslighting. And
Can I preface what we're talking about a little
go
more
for it.
clear?
Yeah.
Is that there's basically this festival, and that happens in this commune in Europe. What, I don't even know if it is in Sweden, to be honest. I think we said that, but I don't even know if that's actually accurate. Is it in Sweden?
I believe it is, because I think
Okay.
because Midsommar is like a Swedish celebration. What they're celebrating.
Like a harvest festival.
What they're doing is like their own ritual under the guise of it being part of Midsommar, which is
right.
which is like what Rob said. It's like a Swedish welcoming spring and growth and everything's beautiful, but then that's disguising the fact that they're doing this horrible fucked up shit that
it's like a commune where they're like cultish, but their rituals have to do with harvest and sacrifice and rebirth and everything. So what this commune or cult does is they have people like Pele in their family, and they basically send them out to get either people to indoctrinate, or the family, or for sacrifice there for these rituals. And that's what our main characters got drawn into under the guise of it's gonna be a nice party, basically.
Yeah. And I think two of them are also we're gonna write our thesis about this.
Well, one of them. So that's the other thing. The Florence Pugh's boyfriend and another friend in the group, both are, I believe, paleoarchaeologist grad students, and it's teased a bunch in the beginning that the one friend in the group is going, he specifically is going because he's done a lot of research on Midsommar, and he is gonna write his thesis on the festival. And that's the big reason he's going, and kind of what sparked the whole trip for everyone is that he got invited to go, and then kind of invited everyone in their friend group to come along. And Florence Pugh's boyfriend is in the same grad program. That's how they know each other. But he is a procrastinator. He's a shithead. He still has no idea what he's going to write his thesis on. He's been procrastinating on that and coming up with excuses. And so around the midway point of the movie, Florence Pugh's boyfriend goes to his friend who's already literally writing parts of his thesis, writing notes on his laptop right after the ceremony where two of the village members jump off a cliff to signify the end of the life cycle, basically. And he's just Florence Pugh's boyfriend's that's crazy, that was crazy, right? And the friend's yeah, man, really insane stuff. And Florence Pugh's boyfriend just is yeah, man, so I'm thinking I'm also gonna I think I'm gonna totally do the same thing you're doing, and if you want to collaborate with me, that'd be cool. And his friend's collaborate? What the fuck are you talking about? You're stealing my idea. And just more gaslighting, where he's listen, man, it's kind of unfair for you to try to say that this is your whole thing. And so, if you want to collaborate, we can be partners on this. Just fully inserting himself and trying to take over this other guy's thing. And that leads to, some dissidence within the group, and things are already popping off. By halfway in the movie, people have disappeared. We've seen people jump off cliffs. It's gotten going.
There's a whole theme of grand intelligent design. The movie starts off with basically what would be a big art piece of what's to happen in the movie, that they kind of show multiple times, different pieces of this village's or this commune's art that depicts the prophecy, or the way they do these rituals. And so who knows, if that guy, if Pele was so smart, he got the one guy to make his thesis, entice him to make his thesis about this so he would come. There's a lot of what ifs in the air, but it all seems to be going perfectly to this painting's prophecy the whole time. And it's just, yeah, it's like we're talking about. Things are popping off, but they're really good at making them be like, no, like, this is the reason they're not here, and like, oh, like, that's weird to you, but it's normal for us, like, that this happened. Like, just gaslighting, and yeah, it's what, like we're talking about, things just, it's like things are already too far before people can really be like, oh shit, we should get out of here, you know? Like, they're good at being kept into the fold of like, no, this is just different for you because it's a different culture.
Right.
Yeah, it's crazy. I do want to talk about Florence Pugh just real quick. There's a scene before they even go to. I'm just kind of bringing up something I really like about the movie, like something I thought was.
I think we're in that sort of aspect of where we can skip around a lot. It doesn't have to all necessarily be linear.
Yeah. There's a, like, before they go on the trip, this is just speaking to Florence's acting. I thought this was like one of the greatest things I've seen in a while. Pele is talking to her. He's saying, I'm glad you're coming on the trip. And he, after like a brief conversation where he's actually making Florence happy, she's distracted from the tragedy that just happened to her. He then brings it back to that. He says, I am sorry for your loss. And the look, like the transition, the change on Florence's face is like gold tier acting. It's so fucking good. She has a smile on her face from the previous topic of conversation. Then he says, I'm sorry for your loss. I'm sorry for what happened to you. And her face, in the most realistic way, goes to a huge frown, and she starts like uncontrollably getting emotional, and then it's a scene where she's like, I have to go to the bathroom, and that is some masterful acting. I feel like I've been that sad before, like, and just like where someone's like, hey, I'm sorry, and you just can't keep it together at all.
Yeah.
Right.
That was really amazing. I've seen this movie only twice. I saw it in theaters and then had to watch it again for this podcast, and I like really love Florence Pugh, and I think I texted you guys this. I was like, I just want to hold her and tell her she's okay. Like,
all right.
So she just gets fucking beat over and over again, like in this movie emotionally. It's so fucking rough, man. It kills me.
She really. We talked about the wailing earlier. She nails, like, it's not like a melodramatic performance either. It's a very like real guttural performance where it's just like the emotions are just so like unhinged, you know.
Like you said, guttural. That's
like,
the perfect.
Yeah,
I think that's the perfect word, because
it's not it doesn't feel performative, like that, you know. There's definitely like a thing about like crying outwardly where it's like, oh yeah, you know, like we express emotion outwardly so to let people know around us, like, hey, we need comfort or attention, you know. It's like that's a lot of you know, like a social connection between people. It's like when people are in pain physically or emotionally, you cry out for people, and Florence Pugh is like crying out, but like not for people. Like she's just crying, you know.
It's she has no one left, like, and she knows it. Like, she's trying to hold on to this shit boyfriend, who, like, you know, it's even Pele's like, when you're with him, does he feel like home? Is it really, like, is he really the answer? Or are you just holding on to like anything and it's hurting you more? Like,
that's the dangerous.
She's crying out to the universe. It's like, I am the saddest you could be, and it's not even a cry for help, like, exactly. It's like, I can't not cry right now. It is so unbearable, this pain.
That's the dangerous part too, is because like Pele, like, he has ulterior motives for sure. Like, obviously,
maybe the most evil guy, but it's hard to tell. Like,
but at the same time, like, his attempts of like getting her, like, trying to get her to enjoy what's going on, and like when you said earlier when he's like, I'm truly sorry for your loss, like, I have no doubt that there is actual genuine, like, because their whole culture is about like we our thing is that we experience our pain. We don't bottle it up.
Yeah.
We let it out. We
share everything together.
We share our pain. Like, so
happiness.
Him saying to her, like, I'm truly sorry for your loss. Like, I'm sorry that your boyfriend did that shitty thing to you. Like, all that shit. Like, I'm convinced all of that is coming from a place of, like, he genuinely does care about her. It's just even more fucked up that he has this motive of underneath of, like, oh, well, I have to.
You
like,
will be mine.
You will be mine.
Crops, though. I gotta worry about the
crops. We gotta. I
have good harvest this year.
I think, honestly, like, from the get-go, like, I think everything was too perfect of her. Like, I think that his plan was, like, oh yeah, I found my McQueen. Like, this is like this Florence.
No,
Pugh
that's
like,
what that's what I get the feeling off of with Pele, and he.
That's what I mean by the intelligent design thing. It's like
he knew
who knows how far this thing has been plotted and seeded.
Right.
You know?
Well, he gaslit Florence Pugh's sister into killing her parents.
It's possible.
I mean,
honestly, I'm like, I wonder.
Yeah, no, there's in the scene we just mentioned where, he's sitting down with Florence Pugh and kind of it being like, hey, does he feel like home? That like throws her off in a way, because that's when it's like most clear where he's coming up to that precipice of just being like, hey girl, I could be your home. This could be your home, and it's just like,
see this body,
like
bitch. This could
see
be
this,
yours.
see this bear costume?
In the next 45 minutes, I'm gonna explain to you how all your problems can be solved by my penis. Like, it's got that vibe so hard, and so yeah, I mean the movie is it really, whenever something happens, it really does kind of feel like it was gonna happen, like it was just meant to happen that way. Even I think the only freebie they really get, because they kind of slowly get everyone like separated in these ways. I think the only freebie they get is the guy in the group who is writing his thesis on Midsommar has been trying to get access to this like book of basically like scripture
their Bible.
That they have. Yeah, their Bible. And it's a Bible that is written like generationally. So they have hundreds of these things, but like the current version of that Bible is what he's really interested in reading. And they get kind of a freebie because he sneaks off at night to try to go like sneak some looks at that book without anyone around.
Yeah.
Because the only way
he asked, he was like, can I see it? And the guy was like, oh yeah, sure. But then when he was like, can I take pictures of this for my notes? The dude was like, oh no, like you can't, like that's going to make it lose its sacred quality if people can, if anyone can
if
have
you come in
like,
here and try and do that, I'll bash you in the back of the head.
Yeah.
Well, and so the only...
Don't say I didn't.
They go through a lot of effort to...
hey, what I tell you about...
They go through a lot of effort
taking pictures of that.
They go through a lot of effort to split everyone up, and that is truly in my head the only freebie where it's just like they got really lucky that he was
about a group of assholes who aren't following the rules, and they just get fit punishment for their crimes.
A bunch of filthy Americans who just don't know how to listen to basic instruction from their extremely generous. I mean, like,
these are good people.
If I knew that at the end of the weekend I was gonna get sewn into a bear costume and burned alive, but if I got to like meet these people the way that they made them in this movie, I would almost be okay with it. I'd be like, you know what, you all are really nice. I will go down in a blaze of glory just because of your sheer generosity and hospitality.
Yes, I agree.
Well, and that's we can. The end of this movie is wild because it's been whittled down to just Florence Pugh and her boyfriend, are the only two left. And there's still like just being gaslit to hell.
That truck is coming. Don't worry. That truck is coming.
Well, and their friend who went to like read the book without anyone knowing and take some pictures of it. They just say that they say the book has disappeared and so has he. Basically just being like, yeah, your friend stole our fucking Bible and like left you here. That's how they kind of explain that one away. The friend in the group who's like just horny and has just been trying to like fuck anything the whole movie.
Oh fuck yeah! He pisses on like a log or something.
He pisses on a sacred tree. It's like this dead tree on. It just looks like just like
they
a dead
dump
tree
the
on
ashes
edge
of
the
their
property.
dead ones
ancestors.
Ancestors.
And he goes and like pisses on it, and then he's next on the chopping block for like being disrespectful, and they trick him with an enticing young gal who kind of like takes him off into the woods, assumedly just to get fucking killed. I
think it's more than just assumedly. We know for sure what happened to him.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, we don't really know what they did to him other than just they fucking killed the shit out of him.
Killed the shit out of him, and then the guy who wrote their Bible is now wearing him as a suit.
Yeah. So
it fits good though. Like the guy looks good in the suit.
He does. Honestly, like that's the one thing you can't knock the bone structure of these people.
Exactly.
Swedish
and
I guess the other
man. I think they practiced it.
Yeah. So it's just Florence Pugh and the boyfriend left, and it's coming up to like the McQueen celebration, and the celebration is basically just all these girls get dressed up in like white frocks with like flower crowns and take a really strong hallucinogenic tea and dance around a maypole for like hours until there's like they've all
collapsed from exhaustion.
Yeah, and whoever
I like what they say, like where that originates is like they talk about in their tradition, like there was the black one who took the women into the fields and like they uncontrollably danced until they all died, like because of some like evil that like made them indulge too hard.
So that begins, and Florence Pugh is kind of brought into that, and then the boyfriend is kind of watching her like dance around this maypole, and
he's like, shit, she is really looking good out there.
Yeah, she looks great, and I have nothing to feel emotionally unwell about, and he ends up getting drugged himself. This girl comes over and is acting all flirty and like gives him tea to drink.
He knows what it is. Like he denies it at first. He's like, I don't want to have a bad trip, and she's like, nah, like you'll be good, bro.
Yeah, and so it's like, assumedly, again, they at this point you gotta be thinking it's like, why have you guys not run yet? Like you have to have seen horror movies.
Well, like they know the truck is coming. The truck is coming. They've been told so many times the truck is going to come back. They were just like, makes no sense to run when there's a truck coming back. We can easily just all drive this truck.
It's different reasons for both Florence Pugh's character and her boyfriend. It's for the boyfriend. It's I'm kind of fucked up, but also I really just want to like stick around for this thesis, and that girl, I have my eye on this girl, she has her eye on me, so I could get the fucking. But then for Florence Pugh's character, it's like I'm actually starting to find comfort in this place. Like they invited, like throughout her time there, they're treating her pretty well. They're including her in cooking together. This dance thing is really bringing her into the fold, and she like is finding actually some comfort here, although it is strange. Like this is slowly becoming her family because she has nothing, and although it's super, nothing feels quite right. They are treating her really well.
I think it all just goes back to like as soon as Pele met her, he probably like phoned up home and was like, I have found the McQueen.
I got her.
Yeah, we're gonna kill these other guys. Don't kill her. Okay, I got dibs on that.
I think they probably realized like she is in a prime spot for us to like just get in there and like really like sell this idea of like
Yeah,
like we brainwash the shit out of her. We can sell her this idea of we experience our pain. We're gonna like free you of all your pain, and everything's gonna be great. And then I think it was just a lot of the drugs and susceptibility on her part, and the work was like already 70% of the way done for them before she even showed up.
Wow. I think in terms of the indoctrination, I think it's one of the most interesting things in this movie is when she's dancing in this group of girls around this maypole and she's just tripping fucking balls like so high on whatever they gave her. She starts trying to like talk to one of the girls around in her like vicinity, and
oh yeah,
they're having trouble like communicating, and then all of a sudden she starts speaking Swedish. She's like, wait, you can understand? Why can I understand? It's just this weird moment where it's like she's like fully in, like it's like she's fully bought in mentally, and so now it's like she can literally speak the language of these people. It's a super interesting movie if you just pay attention to the way Florence Pugh emotionally is like enveloped and isn't getting love from the people that she, her boyfriend or like her boyfriend's friend group, which is like just another weird thing like about relationships where it's like the way friend groups, adopt people in this kind of phony way where it's like, hi, yeah, Andrew's got a new girlfriend and she's part of the group now, and until she's not,
whether you like it or not, she's here. She's coming along to everything. You better get used to it.
What tagline they should have had for this movie was have a strong family, you need great sacrifice.
I mean, the movies. So we talked about it a lot. The movie ends with to speak on your grand design thing, which is like absolutely correct. In the beginning of the movie, when they first get to this village, Florence Pugh points out that at the end of this row of what looks to be like like grain fields, or like basically like these rows of like fields that you could plant crops in, there's this yellow pyramid shaped building, and she points it out and she's like, hey, what's that about? And they're like, don't worry about that, that's for like the end of the festival, you'll find out about that later. And boy howdy do you find out about that later. Because
what's that? What do you mean, I don't care.
Don't worry about it.
What do you mean?
Yeah. You're fine.
Don't worry, the truck's coming.
Hey, what's up? You got some tea? Want some tea?
After tricking Florence Pugh's boyfriend into having sex with this young girl, and that
astrological mate.
That scene's so weird. He is,
but in like a good way. Like everything, like this whole movie is weird in like the best possible. Like, oh, this is really fucking with me. Damn.
Yeah.
Like it weird in that good, like end of horror
just
movie.
Having sex in the middle of a
crashing
barn
down
with a bunch of naked girls singing harmony with the young virgin you're having sex with.
It's that end of horror movie shit where like everything is just fully unraveling, and it's you're having trouble keeping up with how crazy things are getting. It's great.
Yeah. So that happens, and then he is like drugged and paralyzed basically, and Florence Pugh has won the dance off. She is now the May Queen, and the May Queen is tasked with deciding the final sacrifice for their big ceremony. And basically she's still tripping fucking balls. Like she's more fucked up than ever in this moment in the movie, and she like knows that she like saw her boyfriend fucking this girl, she has like
And she doesn't. She maybe doesn't know. Like she knows he's on the tee, but like not like to the severe degree. Like I think they've kind of tricked her into thinking like, oh no, he
just went and did it.
He just went and did it.
I think he would have regardless. Like though, I think if he had that opportunity, he would have fucked her.
Maybe, but I think
he's on the out with her, man. He's on the out with. What that last few moments of that movie are kind of like. It's just the huge separation between the two. She just needed someone to like push her away from that guy because he was bad news for her. Although like this commune isn't good either. Like
of it.
You have what?
I have a different understanding of that. I think he was fully like pressured into fucking that girl.
I think it's like a 50-50.
He went there to like with the idea of like possibly having sex with Swedish women.
Yeah.
And then like Florence kind of like out of guilt he invited her.
Right.
Because he knows her situation is rough. But like his intention originally was that she wasn't going to come. So like during that time he was like, yeah, I'm going to get to go to Sweden and fuck some girls and hopefully distance myself from this broken
I think
like situation.
I think it's a decent. I think
I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying I don't think that. I think he was pressured into having sex with that girl.
He was for sure, but I think that it's
a tango. But I also let me finish.
It's the same thing though.
Let me finish.
No,
let me finish.
No.
Stop trying to interrupt me.
No.
There is the scene where she finds him fucking this girl. And the way she finds out about it is like this other woman in the village just kind of eggs her on when she's like, where's my boyfriend? She's like, I don't know, but definitely like, don't go look in that barn over there. And she's like, what's in the barn over there? She's like, I don't know. Don't go look though. And goes and sees it. And
she's actually like, she says, it's best you don't see what's happening in there.
Yeah, I think
they both have an idea.
Yeah.
The one definitely knows, but I think Florence has an idea.
It just goes right back to what we said earlier.
That Pugh has decided. When they decide in the end, she's given the choice between like 4 different sacrifices. She can either pick her boyfriend or one of like 3 villagers who have all
volunteered.
And I think
aren't they all for sacrifice? And they ask her if she wants to go on with her boyfriend as a sacrifice.
No,
she doesn't get to pick.
I'm sorry.
She gets to decide.
No. There are 3 of them who are. It's 2 guys who have volunteered. It's Pele's brother and some other guy who are definitely getting
they're picked through a raffle.
And there's another guy who has I think the other guy is the raffle, and she for sure deciding.
Yeah, she is for sure.
She just is the deciding factor for her boyfriend. That's it.
Yeah.
Well,
she doesn't pick out of people. They ask her if she wants to go on with.
I don't think she picks her boyfriend. The choice
she doesn't. They pick the boyfriend. They ask her if she wants that to go. Like if that's good.
They've said like, we're gonna sacrifice him. Are you cool with this? And then we're never shown her
basically
answer.
How
but
it
she
goes,
obviously,
yeah.
but she obviously did.
No,
say.
You're both absolutely wrong. She's given a choice between. She's given a choice between a 3rd unnamed villager or her boyfriend. And I think she's so paralyzed by the drugs that she was given that she doesn't actually make a choice. I think she
definitely doesn't like do any head nods or anything. She just like is there.
Right,
and there's a part of me that's like she is like, yeah, do that to him because he's a bad guy.
For the final ceremony, the commune leaders explain that the commune must offer 9 human sacrifices to purge the evil. The first 4 victims, Mark, Josh, Simon, and Connie, are outsiders lured by Pele and Ingmar, while the next 4 victims must be from the commune. As the May Queen, she must choose either Christian or a commune member to be the final sacrifice. She chooses Christian. That's what happens.
I don't think she chooses. I'm serious. I don't think
the way she looks at him does feel like she's like, yeah, get rid of him.
She does for sure.
That was the vibe I got.
They point blank ask her like, is this which one of these do you want? And then she just kind of frowns. We don't see her like decide, but then the next cut is
don't see her make
the boyfriend. But the very next cut is the boyfriend going into the bear costume.
Either of them separately. I agree. Like, obviously,
she never looked at the. She never looked at the commune
she
member.
wanted,
she was mean mugging him the whole time.
I don't think she ever. And again, it's just my.
I don't think it's the drugs. I will disagree with you there. I don't think it's the drugs that like kind of
the drugs help
halt her or make her do like choose her boyfriend. I think she does just want him gone. She wants
the drugs brought out feelings that were within her already. I think she was so mad, and the drugs like made her be like, "Yeah, fuck him, put him in that pyramid building."
Well, you guys are, it's crazy how wrong you both are, and I feel bad for you. No, again, that's been my reading of the movie ever since the first time I saw it, which was that I think this like sick, twisted cult of weird Swedish.
Interesting. Midsommar movie clips on YouTube. Midsommar, the McQueen's choice scene. Interesting. So she doesn't make a choice in the McQueen's choice scene.
I don't think.
So you think she just blindly stared for a while, and then they were like, you in there? Are you going to make a choice? And then she just kept staring.
I don't even think that happened. I think she was so fucking high, and they were asking her these questions, and I don't even think she heard them. Like, I don't think.
No. What the hell? That's headcanon, man.
That is very much headcanon.
I disagree. I don't think.
Really weird.
There is no exposition at all on what her choice was. There's like the whole time.
I think
no
Rob was
evidence
on
that she's
a little Midsommar mushroom tea when he was watching the end of this movie.
That is, I don't know. I've never heard that interpretation.
Well, I'm just like really smart. So anyway, the movie ends with them burning all the sacrifices in that big yellow building, and Florence Pugh is put in this flower costume that makes her look like a flower slug, and she kind of wails a little bit more, and then the movie ends. So that's Midsommar, and you guys are dumb.
It's a very good.
Sad.
It's a very.
I used to look up to Rob. No, I never looked up to Rob.
I never, not once. Midsommar is a very, very good horror movie. I don't think it's as good as Hereditary, but it is a very. Ari Aster is one of the best horror directors working today.
It's just it's weird. You guys didn't even.
I agree with Jacob there. I like Hereditary better, but I will say I saw Midsommar in theaters after I'd seen Hereditary.
Same
I was kind of like, wait, what's that?
It was the same thing with me. Midsommar was coming out, and I was like, oh, this looks good. And then I watched Hereditary, and then within the same week, I went and saw Midsommar in theaters.
Yeah, and so, like, my initial impression, I was kind of bummed out when I saw Midsommar the first time. I thought it was good, but I was like, well, this isn't as good as Hereditary, nearly. And I just kind of was always like, Midsommar's And then, I gotta be honest, watching it the second time around, I really appreciated it a lot more. I do think it's a pretty goddamn good horror movie.
Yeah.
Really like it.
Very, very good. Very good.
Yeah, even though you didn't get it at all.
I'd give Midsommar a solid 8 out of 10. Excellent movie. If you guys still haven't watched it and you've just listened to us argue and spoil the shit out of it, you can go watch it on YouTube TV. You can watch it on Paramount Plus. You can watch it on Hulu, Sling TV, Roku, Amazon Prime, Brennan's Voodoo account, which we will give out our top Patreon donors get access to Brennan's Voodoo account.
Exactly.
You can go out and go out and watch that. So yeah, Midsommar.
Honestly, it's
very good.
It's a great movie. The only when I saw it in theaters, I went to see it with Brennan, and it was like I think it was like a month after it come out, and he had already seen it, and he was like, "Hey man, this art house in Center City, Philly is playing like an extended like director's cut of the movie that's only being released for like a week." And so the first time I saw it was apparently this extended artsy director's cut, and to this day, because I've seen it a couple times after, like I don't know that I've ever seen that like extended cut ever again, and I can't even tell you like what the differences were personally. But the first time I saw it was like supposedly had like an extra like 20 minutes, because I think it was like when I saw it in theaters it was like 2 hours and 45 minutes, and the theatrical cut is only like 2:27 or something like that. So But the first time I saw it, it was just like a deeply uncomfortable experience. Like it's not, I wouldn't say it's scary the way Hereditary is like scary and like I'm fearful when I watch that movie, but this movie has like an overwhelming sense of dread that's really hard to recreate. Like I think it's pretty masterful. So I would give it an 8 out of 10 as well.
Yeah. Jake, did you give your rating?
I would say I like it. It's not my favorite horror movie, but I'll give it like a 7. I do think it's really good, but there's some other horror movies out there that I find way more endearing for a lot of reasons. But it's a goddamn good horror movie for sure.
A little bit of a side note, Ari, at the time we record this, I think either it's about to come out or it is currently out. But Ari Aster's next movie, Beau is Afraid. Have you guys seen any trailers for that?
Yeah, I have.
Does that look like something we'd be interested in talking about maybe on a future episode?
I would definitely watch that and talk about that. Yeah, I like Joaquin Phoenix a lot, so I would.
Apparently,
check it.
There was some. I didn't read the full article, but I skimmed an article where apparently there was like some on-set drama happened where like during shooting where because Joaquin Phoenix gets into his whole like method thing where he's like an asshole to everybody, and apparently he and Ari Aster
trying to do something real.
He and Ari Aster got into like a little bit of an argument where and Joaquin essentially said something to the effect of, "You're just some kid who's really excited to have Joaquin Phoenix on your set, aren't you?" And Ari just went, "Yeah, I am."
Oh, wow.
Dude, Joaquin can be such a fucking asshole. It's wild.
That's such a never meet your heroes thing where to have like someone you really want to work with and have looked up to maybe your whole career and maybe longer, be like, you're just some like geeky guy who thinks I'm a good actor, huh? You fucking loser.
It's such a weird interaction to have.
Oh, you think I have a great career and you respect me for my art? Is that what you're trying to tell me right now? I'm trying to do something real. When the Joker dances in his fridge,
it needs to be the most real dance in a fridge that has ever been put on film.
I'm an artist. I'm so thin. Anyway,
speaking of art, a character in the next movie we're talking about has a really good scene where he talks about a huge art piece he put on his wall, and his dad is just not appreciative of that piece of art at all.
Okay.
Calls it wallpaper. That's what we call an expertly crafted transition. I'm very good at segues.
That was probably the best one you've ever done, if I'm being honest. And I just want to say, I have so much to say about those two actors. So whoever wants to kick this off, go ahead.
I'll kick it off since it was my recommendation. We're of course talking about 2018 Widows by Steve McQueen, the same guy who did 12 Years a Slave, Hunger, Shame. He's done a lot of Michael Fassbender movies. He's, I think, a really talented director. This is, I think, a much more of a blockbuster type movie than what he's used to doing. He does more like artsy, like long take stuff especially with like Hunger and Shame. 12 Years a Slave was his, I think, big like Oscar grab, but it kind of bums me out that more people don't talk about this one because I think that it has a lot of really good stuff going for it. It's a fantastic movie in my opinion. Essentially, it is about a group of career criminals who get killed on a heist, and all of the money that they stole gets burned up in this big fiery explosion. And the crime boss whose money was being stolen goes to the widow of the head of this group of criminals and says, "Your husband stole $2 million from me. You have 1 month to liquidate all your assets, get me my money back, or else I'm going to come kill you," essentially. So she finds her husband's journal where he's like detailed all the jobs he's done and like all the upcoming like heists that he was planning, and she gets the other widows of all the other dudes who were killed to come together to do the next big heist, so that way she can pay off this crime boss and avoid getting killed and save the lives of these other women who are presumably also going to be on the chopping block. Yeah, I like this movie a lot, and again, it just bums me out that more people don't talk about it. So now we're going to talk about it. What did you guys think of this movie?
Rob, you can go.
Okay. This movie is fucking ridiculous. It's a fucking absurd movie. It's insane. There's so much going on in this fucking movie, and maybe I should preface everything else I'm going to say about this movie with, I really do like this movie a lot. Like I had a lot of fun watching it, but this is one of those movies where it's like every spice in the spice cabinet is in this movie. They literally do like everything you can do in a movie like this. Like there's not like a single trope they don't throw in there, and there's just so much insane shit that goes on. Every actor in the movie, like every character,
star-studded cast too. Like
star-studded cast. Like there's a lot. Like Viola Davis, who I just like. I'm in love with her. She's so cool. Like Viola Davis, if you're listening, and I know you are, I want to marry you, and I would absolutely leave my life behind to join yours. There's just so much going on. Like she's great. Liam Neeson plays Viola Davis's husband. He's very interesting in the movie. There's a fucking Michelle Rodriguez, another woman where it's like, hey, Michelle Rodriguez, I know you're listening. I would absolutely marry you.
Come join my polyamorous relationship with Viola Davis.
With Viola Davis, yeah, for real.
Yeah.
No, honestly, like two Hollywood actors where I'm just like, God damn, I'm so in love with both of you. The movie is just doing a lot. Every character is an extreme version of character trope. Like it's even like the smaller characters, like even like the characters who get less screen time are just extreme versions of the stereotype they're portraying. And this movie just hits it all. Like they hit a lot of different things. There's some great fucking twists and turns, and the other thing is it's a big movie. Like it feels big. Like there's so many different actors. There's so many different like factions of characters in the movie. Like there's a lot going on, a lot of moving pieces. But I do think like this movie's ridiculous. Like I think it's like a ridiculous film. As much as I liked it, I thought it was a pretty ridiculous movie.
But when you say ridiculous, you mean like roller coaster ride ridiculous, where it's like, oh my god, I had so much fun, that was crazy? Or is it like
like if it was like a roller coaster, like an ironic roller coaster, where like
an ironic roller
every twist and turn, there's like this weird sense of meta irony going on. Like I just it borderlines on absurdist. It's a really well made movie because Steve McQueen is a really good director and writer, and there's a lot of great actors in the movie. But like if this movie was written and directed by any B-level director and you had B-level stars in it, this would be one of those movies that like fully gets made fun of as like a ridiculous bullshit, movie. And
right. You also just mentioned
I
really small note. You mentioned written by Steve McQueen. It's also written by Gillian Flynn, the same woman who wrote Gone Girl, the book and the script.
You see, that's what I'm saying, man. Yeah. This shit is borderline absurdist humor. Like, if it wasn't so well made, it would be like the dialogue is like insane. Like some of the dialogue in this movie is insane. Viola Davis, one of her character choices is like she just carries her dog everywhere into situations where like she shouldn't have a dog with her, and she's still carrying her dog around. Like there's just a lot going on, man. I don't, Jake, I yield my
yeah,
time.
Jake, what did you think?
I liked the movie a lot. I thought it was I don't know. I don't know what I was expecting from this movie. I almost, from description alone was like, I've never even seen the lady version of Ghostbusters, but I was like, oh, this is gonna be that. And no, it was fucking fast as shit, and I really liked it. And I love Colin Farrell, so anytime I get to see him in something, I was really pumped about. But I was just going, along for the ride the whole time. And there was Rob texted some stuff either this morning or last night. He said this movie is so confusing. There is some things in this movie where it's kind of moving so fast, and I don't know. It was like a little confusing. You can put it together, but I don't know. It's just a ride. Like, I was just having a good time, and it is absurd. It's wild. Like, there's like a twist that's really kind of funny at the, like, I was like, is this even real? What's happening right now?
Yeah.
I thought it was like a dream or something, or it took place in the past, and then it turns out it was happening, and that's like when you find out like Liam Neeson is alive, and it's like a whole thing.
That twist fucked me up.
Yeah,
truly.
But I don't know. I liked it a lot. I was pleasantly surprised at how fucking awesome it was, and I liked how all the women were just really badass in their own right.
Boss.
Yep. Girl bosses.
I say that without a hint of irony too. Like,
they're badass.
I've said this on this very podcast before. It pisses me off that movies like 2016 Ghostbusters is what is talked about, and not a movie like this. Like, this is like the scene where Alice, Elizabeth Debicki's character is like, Viola Davis is like, you're in charge of getting the guns. Go get 3 Glocks and X amount of ammo. And she is like so out of her element. She goes to like a gun show.
What's that actress's name again?
Elizabeth Debicki. She's been in some other stuff.
She was my favorite, I think. Actually.
Her and Michelle Rodriguez are awesome. I love them.
Because like you see Michelle Rodriguez and her like when they're getting like the rundown of what's going on, and you're like, okay, Michelle Rodriguez is always the badass in movies,
right?
And you're just like, yeah, okay, so this like blonde chick is gonna be like the ditzy one or whatever, and then they actually like kind of swap roles, like, or expectations are subverted in that way, where you're like, oh shit, like ditzy chick is like fucking badass. She's great with a gun.
Michelle Rodriguez is also playing like reformed badass, because she even says to them at a certain point, she's like, have you guys even like been to fucking prison? Like, you guys have no concept of the consequences if we fuck this up. And it's like, you look at Michelle Rodriguez's character, it's like, why do you want to run a quinceañera store so bad? And it's like, oh, because it's better than being a fucking criminal. Like, you recognize that you're just trying to be like a normal, fucking small business owner raising your kids after your shithead gambling addict husband dies, that's it. I really like I like every character in this movie. I think I love Robert Duvall plays
I had a very strong feeling that you were gonna love him and Colin Farrell's characters the most out of everybody else.
So good. I really like Robert Duvall and Colin Farrell are strong favorites for me, for sure. Robert Duvall is just he's so funny seeing him in this movie. He's just dropping fucking slurs and F-bombs the whole time. Like, he's just this angry old Chicago guy. Like, he gives this like whole speech to Colin Farrell at one point, like fires his campaign manager who's worked with the family for like 30 years. And he's like, yeah, I hired this like black dude who's like apparently really good. And Robert Duvall's like, oh, you hired a black guy. Great. Good for you. You're gonna fix America, aren't you?
Yeah.
It's like, it's just so, there's some really strange like racial undertones in this movie. The whole like Viola Davis Liam Neeson relationship is weird because like before you find out that Liam Neeson is still alive, you get a scene that's a flashback where Liam Neeson's like trying to like get it on with Viola Davis, and Viola Davis is like, hey, fucking me isn't gonna fix this. And Liam Neeson out of nowhere is like, are you gonna like make me regret having a kid with you? It's like, what the fuck is going on? And Liam Neeson also like not famous for good like racial opinions in real life.
Exactly.
And,
yeah. I was gonna say
it comes out later in the movie that their kid, Liam Neeson and Viola Davis's child is like, mixed race, obviously, and got gunned down by police officers in the Chicago streets. And like Liam Neeson holds something against Viola Davis for being black and like him falling in love with her and losing his son because of the skin tone and just all this weird fucking shit. And like Liam Neeson also, it turns out, like staged this whole thing. Like he ended up betraying his crew because he had a white kid with one of the other crew members' wives.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I'm gonna, kill off my crew, take all the money, and go raise a white baby with this, white woman. It's just the race shit. Like, there's a lot of weird racial stuff in this movie that is like, honestly, probably the least absurd aspect of the film. The way they tackle race relations in this movie is pretty good. As a white movie goer, like I thought that they did a really good job of just being like, oh yeah, man, like shit's weird between white and black people. Like it is like in America. It's no matter what aspect of it you're looking at. Like even just the guy that Liam Neeson steals money from, who like comes to Viola Davis and says, hey, you've got a month to liquidate your assets and pay me back. He's running for the same like council seat as Colin Farrell. It's a black dude from the 18th ward versus a white guy whose basically
his family has been running that ward for like 3 generations or shit, and Robert Duvall's like, you better not be the first generation to lose to a slur. Like
yeah, you better not be the first generation to lose to an N-word. And hearing Robert Duvall like drop an N-bomb is just like, what the fuck? Like it's so strange. And honestly, like the race stuff is just it's peppered into the movie in a way where like it kind of comes out of nowhere sometimes. And the scene where they show a flashback scene of like Viola Davis's kid getting killed by the police, and it just, you've got like 10 seconds from cops pulling the kid over to shooting him, and in that 10 seconds it's just like all through my head, I was just going, no, please don't. Like, please don't let this be. Please don't make me watch this right now, movie. Like, it's just, and then it disappears in a weird way. Like, the movie isn't heavy fisted with, like, the racial kind of discussion points, but it's very straightforward in that way. Like, this whole movie is just, like, I don't know. It's a weird movie. It's definitely like the most blockbustery Steve McQueen movie, I think. And I just it's like I liked how it felt real. Like it felt like a real movie, even with how absurd it was. And with the girl boss stuff, like there's no Marvel team up moment. There's no like
the
all
exact
the
opposite.
women of
Viola
Marvel.
Davis says verbatim, "There's no reunion after this job is done. It's everyone for themselves.
Yeah.
Like I'll make sure you get your cut of the money, but then we're fucking gone. I never want to see any of you again." Like
there's a great part where they're like filling up Tupperware containers full of dirt, and it's like, why are you doing this? And then it turns out Viola Davis is literally just like, hey, you girls have probably never had a backpack full of money on your back. This is how much it weighs. And like puts like a 40-pound backpack on Michelle Rodriguez. And Michelle Rodriguez is like, this is like nothing. And then they put a 100-pound backpack full of dirt on Michelle Rodriguez's back. And she's like, okay, this is too heavy. And Viola Davis is like, listen, we've got 3 days to like do this like men.
Like we're not men, we're women trying to pull off a heist. Like we're not like, you know, fully in our element here.
None of us are none of us are fucking criminals. None of us like know how to do this shit. We're not
criminals. We're not like dudes who just, you know, are like able to, you know, get through these like physically demanding things without even thinking about it necessarily. Like it's the movie doesn't pull any punches with being like, you know, hey, there are like classes of people in this world that are underdogs, and you know the movie opens up with like all the privileged white guys getting killed, right? It's just like it's so interesting to me, the way they do all that stuff in this movie.
Yeah. So we kind of derailed your point that like you and I were making earlier, Jake, but you were talking about Elizabeth Debicki, the blonde girl, and I think she's definitely given a lot more character development than the other. Next to Viola Davis, I think she's the most fleshed out story of the four women who do the heist. What were you saying earlier? We were talking about the Glock scene.
I just like that she, you know, in the beginning of the movie, it's her, like, you know, her husband's dead and she relied on him, although he was like abusive to her and whatever, but they make her seem like totally helpless. And I like that subversion there, that she turns out to be like the most capable on all fronts, you know, like manipulation. She's so good at that multiple times in the movie. She's able to like kind of she acts as like a Russian like mail order bride basically, like and is like, I need help getting gun, like people are after me. And it's so good. She like convinces this like Second Amendment like loving like lady at this gun show to buy her guns for her.
She's like, how
that scene is so fun. I don't mean to interrupt, but that scene is so funny because that she goes with this butch lady at this gun show.
I am how you say mail order bride. I need a weapon to protect myself.
I need three Glock 17s and
one for each room.
Yeah. The one's like, that's a lot of firepower. Yeah, one for each room.
Dude, essentially, she might as well.
The woman she asks for help has her daughter with her, and this like 10-year-old girl delivers this amazing line where she's like, well, Mom, you do always say a gun is a girl's best friend. And it's like, God damn, this is so good.
So, I don't know. It's cool just to see her be like, she, you know, she's not just some like ditzy woman. Yeah. She's fucking badass. And when like the occasion, you know, rose, she fucking proved herself. Yeah. And it was really cool. I liked her character a lot.
She only one who had the balls to shoot Robert Duvall.
Yeah, which is also kind of a funny scene when that happens. But I just want to say,
shoot Robert Duvall.
Oh wait, no, she gets shot by Robert Duvall.
She gets
shot. So they're doing the heist, and Robert Duvall surprises them, and it's like, "Are you fucking stealing my money?" And gets them to drop their guns. And the ditzy girl, she reaches for Robert Duvall's gun. She's the first one to react and like try to, you know, save the group, and gets shot. And then Michelle Rodriguez is the one that pulls the trigger on Robert Duvall.
Yeah. So sorry, Jake, you were saying.
I just I don't know. I typically don't like movies like this, where it's like heisty kind of stuff. The only movie that kind of changed my mind about these types of movies was Heat, and Heat's just like untouchable. So the fact that I even like this movie at all kind of speaks to it, because like I said, I just don't like. I think this type of shit is boring, and I know it's like. People are like, how could you think that's boring? It's all action, basically. I've seen it so many times. They make so many movies like in this lane that I just could care less. But no, I think they did a really good job, and it's kind of a fresh take on what's happening, or like a fresh version of it. So
it's a very like it's more about the planning and like what goes into a heist than an actual heist, and mixed in with like these nice semi-comedic relief scenes of Colin Farrell just not wanting to inherit the family business and having private meltdowns and like that. Yeah,
can I tell you my favorite scene that is like coincides with what you're talking about?
I think I know what scene you're talking about, but yeah, go on.
Yeah, it's right after he's getting questions by that like reporter, and he's in the car, and it shows like he's having a meltdown. But I like the angle they show. It's like him basically like being able to run away from his problems, which is like in turn showing like he's leaving the ghetto, and like 3 or 4 blocks away is like these nice houses where he just like he has this like artificial escape basically from like poverty and problems, and because he has it's so great. Like I was like, why are they shooting at this angle? And then it just shows the nice houses, and I was like, oh, that's fucking awesome.
There's a lot of really good long takes in this movie, like that scene in particular. I love that we just I didn't get it the first time I watched this, but the watching it again, I think I joked about it earlier. There's a very much like a Donald Trump and Don Jr. vibe going on between Robert Duvall and Colin Farrell, where Colin Farrell is just like, he does not like, he's like, his dad is just so overbearing, and he's like, I just want to be my own person. I hate that I have to deal with this fucking guy. I can't wait for him to die, and I never have to see him again. Shit like that. And that scene where he gets in the car and they're driving, like, the main thing is to serve that what you said of like, oh, like, look how close they are to this ghetto, essentially, this fake little like utopia they've built for themselves. But it gives like strong vibes of like the like your candidate is like wearing a microphone and he doesn't realize it's still on, and you get to hear like him have a meltdown with his secretary, being like, "You ever fucked a black guy before?" And she's like, "I think we have bigger problems than if your dick is bigger than Jamal Manning." So that scene is so fucking good. Colin Farrell is like the one of the better comedic relief characters I've seen in a movie as of late. In this one,
he's great. He's great playing off Robert Duvall, and again, Robert Duvall is just playing a super unhinged like old man and
Grandpa Duvall.
Yeah,
I said that to myself as I was watching it.
One of my favorite scenes in the movie is when he's talking with Robert Duvall about like
the campaign
basically
manager
like
scene.
he does well there's it might be that same scene, and
because they really only have like Robert Duvall is barely in the movie, but he is awesome in every scene that he's in.
He fucking Colin Farrell says to Robert Duvall, maybe it would be easier to walk in your shadow if you didn't leave big piles of shit everywhere for you to step on. And Robert Duvall just goes, I will beat your fucking ass, and I still can. I'm not too old to beat your fucking ass. It's like, oh my God, it's so crazy.
And I love that, like, we never get to see the payoff, but like spoilers, like, so the $2 million, the crime, so it's a little. It's complex. So Colin Farrell is running against I forget Colin Farrell's name. He's Jack Mulligan. Jack Mulligan is running against Jamal Manning, and they're both like crime bosses in their own way. Like Colin Farrell and Robert Duvall are more of like the Bostonian-esque, like Irish sort of crime mob, and Jamal Manning is more of like we have a bunch of gangs out in the streets running everything type of deal. And so Liam Neeson's character stole money from Jamal Manning. That money all gets burned up, supposedly, but in actuality, it was paid to some of it was paid to Jack Mulligan, so that way Liam Neeson's character could like fake his own death and run away and start a new life with this woman who has his child that was like one of the other widows of the gang members. So Jamal's trying to get the money back from Viola Davis, telling her you have all this time to liquidate your assets and whatnot. The next heist is for them to break in to the Mulligan estate and steal all of this money. And So that's we mentioned earlier. The scene where Robert Duvall essentially is. I think it might even be the exact line. He's like, "What the fuck? You think you can just waltz in here and take all my money? What the fuck are you doing?" Like, it's like it's not even scared of them. Just like the fucking audacity of you guys. It's But Colin Farrell just wants nothing to do with any of this. He has no interest in being a crime boss. He has no interest in like the facade of like I'm gonna be like the JFK of Chicago, that everyone's gonna love me. Like he has no interest in any of that. He wants nothing more than to like lose this election and then just disappear into obscurity.
Just be a rich guy is all he wants.
Exactly.
He just wants to be a rich person.
There's several times where he meets with Jamal Manning and is like, I'm up in the polls, like kind of bragging at first, but like with this thin veil of like, I don't really want this, like giving him like pointers on how to be better. And then ultimately, like that final scene they have together, he's like, listen, like you're ahead in the polls, like tell you what, this will make everybody happy. You'll win. You'll be the first black leader of this district of Chicago, and I'll advise you from the shadows. I'll take a percent of your like cut or whatever. Like he pitches this deal, and then I think that's the last we see of Colin Farrell until we cut to the end where the radio is like, and Jack Mulligan won in a landslide victory after his father was brutally murdered and he gained the sympathy vote. Like, so Colin Farrell is off somewhere just having a meltdown in that mansion. And it's such like, it's not played for laughs at all, but it is such a great comedic payoff at the end of the movie. I loved that moment so much. It's very complex. It's a lot of ins and outs, but I don't think it's one of those movies where you get to the end and you're like, wait, I need to see that again because I don't understand any of what just happened. Like they do, I think, a very good job of tying it all up in a bow for you at the end to make it easily understandable.
Oh yeah, every loose end gets pretty much dealt with, and I listen again. It's an absurd movie. I like it a lot. I'm not unhappy to have watched it, and I think overall I'd give it like a 7 out of 10. Just it's worth watching.
Yeah,
especially just it's got an amazing cast and it's fun. Like I said, it's like a semi-ironic roller coaster ride. It's like truly it's better than there's a lot of these movies that are like this where it's like hardcore crime drama movie on the streets, and they usually don't pay off. This one it pays off pretty well, I would say.
For sure it does. And can we also take a moment to appreciate like one of the best, like most intimidating presences in a movie ever is Daniel Kaluuya's character. Like he was fucking awesome. Yeah. Every scene he was in, he
like
stole
him in
the
everything
show.
he's in, I think.
Yeah.
he stole the show. Like the scene where he's like he's beating up the guy in the wheelchair and he's just like stabbing him into the legs with the ice pick. That's like so
so you don't even feel this,
but it's so good.
It's like a game of Operation. It's he's very scary. Also, he's like,
or the scene where
like,
he's
listening to like Black Power radio all the time too,
yeah.
And it's just like you're such an interesting guy right now.
And the scene too, like his like sort of introduction where like there's like the two guys who were slacking off, and he's like, I heard you were beatboxing. Like, show me what you were doing. Like, give me a demonstration, and then just executes them in the middle of their freestyle. It's so wild. I like this movie a lot. I'm really happy that you guys liked it. I like I said, it bums me out that more people don't talk about this one. I think it's very well written, very well directed. Even though, like we've said, it's more of a out of Steve McQueen's filmography, this feels like the most obvious. Like, oh, I'm gonna do a commercially successful movie for a paycheck, so then I can go on to make the artsy stuff that I actually care about, type of vibe. But it's very, very good. Not as good as his other movies. I think 12 Years a Slave and Hunger and Shame in particular are his two best. This one doesn't come close to that. But yeah, you should check out his filmography. He's great. At the very least, watch this one because it's very good. Again, Jake hates heist movies with a burning passion, and he loved this movie. I give Widow. I think I give it a. I gave it a 7 when I first watched it, but on rewatch, I think that this is a pretty solid 8 out of 10 for me.
I like this movie a lot. 7.5.
So split the difference, 7.5.
Yeah.
That's fair. If you listened to this entire discussion of Widows and you still haven't seen it, what's wrong with you? Why did you do that?
Yeah, I mean,
but
that too. Yeah.
go. If you still haven't seen it, or if you want to watch it again, you can watch it for free on Amazon Prime. I think it's Freevee, so it's free with ads. You can watch it with a Hulu subscription. You can rent it on a bunch of other platforms. See it any way you can. It's really good. And then speaking of really good, like more so than I was anticipating. I was expecting a lot of 70s cheese. I was expecting a lot of like hokey, like old-timey Western, over the top dramatics with this last one, but I was very pleasantly surprised. Jake's recommendation for us, Jeremiah Johnson. So Jake, why don't you tell us a little bit about this movie?
Picture this. You have 14-year-old Jake Domanski on a Saturday night. Nothing to do. Hey, Dad, what are you doing? My dad's watching AMC. Nothing, son. He's just watching some shit. And I just merely peek into the living room and I start talking to my dad. And then this movie comes on. He goes, "Oh, this is a good movie, Jeremiah Johnson." And I go, "That's an old movie. That's stupid." He goes, "No, honestly, you should watch this. This is really good." I have nothing better else to do. I'm trapped a few towns over at my dad's house for the weekend. I go, "Sure thing, Dave. I'll watch it with you." Once again, I'm at this point in my life where, like, I'm a young kid and I think every old movie is just fucking boring and stupid because it's just looks old and it sucks. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just trying to make my dad happy hanging out with him. This movie, I fucking fall in love with. And, you know, I haven't seen it since back then, but I just remember really loving it. And I have, like, a core memory of this movie with my dad. And so when I watched it again recently, I was also pleasantly surprised that it held up, and I think it's even better than I remember it. And now that I've seen a lot of movies since then, I'm like, fuck, this is a great movie. But Jeremiah Johnson is just about a guy who basically goes to be a mountain man out west in the U.S. in like the late 1800s, early 1900s. It's during like shortly after the Mexican-American War, I guess. And it's just, I just like old movies for this fact that it just kind of like you get told like what's going on. He's like, "This is Jeremiah Johnson. He's going to be a mountain man, and nobody knows where he came from really, but here we go. He's gonna do it now." And like, there's not like all this prefacing bullshit. He's just starting to be a mountain man right from the get-go. And it's about him and his escapades. Like, there's literally multiple arcs of him just, like, doing different things with different people, different places. And, yeah, it's just a ride, and it eventually becomes a little bit of something bigger. What it means to be a mountain man and, you know, try and live out there in these times. And it's just so fucking good. I laughed so much during this movie, and I felt also like sad a lot of the time. It's all over the place, but it's just so fucking good, man. This movie is great.
I agree wholeheartedly.
This is a masterpiece. I think I said it yesterday. This is a masterpiece on Barry Lyndon's level of just. It's just about and I don't want to be like. This phrase has gotten a bad rap as of late, but this is just a movie about a man going his own way, you know, like
for sure.
He just is. And I think every moment of it, like I like Jacob was expecting some real like 70s cheese, you know, like weird, you know, cowboy stuff,
which there is for sure
a little bit,
but
yeah,
but it's not it's not the main attraction.
There's I think like every moment of this movie was great. I like all the characters he runs into on his adventures.
They're all good and like really creative, like just characters. Yeah,
I think, and to, you know, I loved Bear Claw, the first guy he like meets out in the wilderness. Just this like weird old
You
guy.
mean Bear Claw Chris Lapp?
Chris Lapp, Bear Claw, Chris Rapp.
Yeah, he's the best, and his whole thing is just
Jeremiah Johnson's sensei for his training.
Yeah, no, really.
My favorite,
like a mountain man,
teaches him everything.
My favorite exchange, like other than when he like is like, here, go inside, get warm, and then chases a bear into the fucking house for
By
Jeremiah
the way,
to deal with.
That's like that scene, how the camera is shot, like how it shows the bear run through the front door, the camera goes around the house, and
that's
then you see
classic
Chris Lapp jump
comedy
through the window on the other side. I was like, yo, this is like a Wes Anderson moment here.
This is slapstick comedy at its peak. And then like my favorite moment is when like it's kind of towards the end of like his time with Lapp, but I feel bad. I can't remember any of the. Well, I know the names, but I don't remember who belongs to what faction. Was it the Flatheads that they meet originally? Like the guy
the
who
Crow.
was,
they meet the Crow first.
They meet the Crow
Chris
first.
Lapp, yeah.
And the leader of the Crow like says something like, "Oh, I recognize you. You're the guy who doesn't know how to fish." Like
you
like,
fish poorly.
Yeah, that's
you
such
can understand them. Yeah.
He says you fish
what's
poorly.
his name?
Yeah.
I forget that guy's name. It's like paints his shirt red is the name of the Crow's leader.
Red.
And
yeah.
I love this line Chris Lapp like says. He's like, or Jeremiah Johnson says, "You understand him?" And he goes, "Yeah, he speaks English. He just does this to aggravate me."
Yeah.
So funny. And to jump to closer to the end, fucking Bear Claw he's credited as Bear Claw. So he, that's how I know him.
Right.
In kind of the aftermath of Jeremiah Johnson's, life, almost, he's like hit his peak. He's like peak fucking wilderness guy.
He's now ready to find a young stupid. He's now ready to be the sensei to somebody else who thinks they can conquer a mountain. He's a hardened mountain man at this point.
Yep. Bear Claw shows back up, and immediately I was like, Bear Claw, yes! I was so excited when he shows back up. And they have this interesting exchange, and Jeremiah Johnson's cooking a rabbit on over a fire, and gives Bear Claw a piece of rabbit. And like one of the last things Bear Claw says to Jeremiah Johnson is, "You cook good rabbit, Pilgrim," almost to be like, "God damn it, dude, you're doing great." Yeah, I'm proud of you. You fucking figured it out, huh? Like it's so good.
There's good rabbit, Pilgrim. Was it worth all the trouble?
Yes, that fucking line.
What trouble? And like you see, like this. I mean, we're really jumping like the gun with events here because there is like a major thing that happens that kind of leads Jeremiah Johnson like. He's like in kind of a sad state at this point. Like he's
perpetual dark night of the soul.
Exactly. So like when he says, "What's the trouble?" It's tough. It's tough,
but
it makes me sad.
That is like my favorite exchange in the movie when Bear Claw says, "Was it easy?" And like before Jeremiah even says anything, like you see on his face, like. I got a vibe of like there's the obvious sadness that you guys are talking about where it's like, yeah, I went through all this shit and like I'm worse a little bit for it, but at the same time like he got what he wanted when he came up in that mountain. He wanted to like be able to live off the land and be self-sustaining and do all this shit. So like there's this like before he even says anything, he kind of like chuckles and I get the sense of that where he's like, no, it wasn't easy, but I still made it. And it's like it's the ultimate like it's so good. Like I love that exchange so much.
This could be headcanon on my part, but like in that moment, I feel like Jeremiah Johnson like could cry at that point, but like I don't think he is. Like he's a grizzled mountain man, but like that conversation of like seeing the guy who you started with in a way, like, and then seeing him after all this shit, and he also is aware of like all the stuff Jeremiah Johnson's been through. It's like It's like it wasn't like what I thought it was gonna be. But I'm here. But also I want to go back real quick when Jeremiah Johnson first encounters, paints his shirt red. He's fishing poorly, like we talked about.
Yeah.
And I just like wrote this down, like watching it the second time. I was like, Jeremiah Johnson level 1 encounters max level.
And PvP just turned on.
Yeah, it's just like, oh shit, this guy's epic as fuck, and like he's dressed in like Native American garb, obviously, because he is the chief. But it's like, yeah, Jeremiah Johnson just wearing like veteran Mexican American war garb, like falling in the creek over and over again. Just it's so good. But I do, if I kind of want to just run through, like I'll just name the arcs. I listed some arcs and we can talk about them as they come about. But yeah, the first arc is what would you say the first arc is? Him like by himself or him with Bear Claw?
I would say the first arc is him by himself for sure. Even though it's short,
Okay.
like you get him like he's like, okay, yep, I showed up in this town. I got my that rifle that I always wanted, and that's all I need.
Well, he didn't get the rifle.
No,
he got
he-
something close.
He got something close
he
to it,
got-
but it was
he
good
got
enough
the
for
best he
him.
could get, yeah.
It was
Yeah.
good, but the narrator says, doesn't he? He's like, it was good enough for him. Like, doesn't he say something like that?
Yeah. It was a 30 cal Hawkins rifle, and he wanted a 50 cal.
cal.
This movie is
Which-
this movie is a huge advertisement for Hawkins rifles. They say several
Hawkins
times.
is the best rifle you can get.
They but yeah, I would
yeah.
say the first arc for sure is like him, like after that, when he like when he shows up in town to when he meets Bear Claw is that first arc, because like you see him like trying to hunt and like missing and trying to grab fish
He
with his
misses
bare
the deer,
hands.
and it's like close up of like a frowny
And him like finding that frozen dude and then stealing
Hatchet
his
Jack.
supply. Hatchet Jack, like
Hatchet Jack in death gifts him the 50 cal Hawkins he always wanted.
which that's such a cool way to go. Just be like, oh man,
Yeah.
my fucking legs are broken. Okay, I might as well just scrawl my last will and testament on this handkerchief for whoever finds me out here. That's
I'm
like
of sound mind
Hatchet
and broken
Jack, yeah.
legs.
yeah. To have such
I
a
think that
can
it
you even
ends his,
imagine
like,
having such a sense of humor about your own death?
Dude,
to
his
be like,
sign off is, well, I'm dead now.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm dead now.
Yeah, it's so funny.
Oh, dude, it's so good. I just
Yeah.
like.
I think that first arc of not knowing what he's doing is also so interesting, like running into the corpse of a guy who like probably had a slightly better understanding of what he was doing, who didn't make it.
It's
And
funny,
like,
but it's also
Right.
Oh,
intense.
fuck.
It's like this is what's
It
gonna
is
happen to
intense.
me if I don't learn
Yeah.
if I don't learn what to do. I'm gonna be Hatchet Jack. Like
he even looks like Hatchet Jack somewhat, and that's like what I thought too. Was that this could happen to me.
these are the stakes.
And thank you for the right. It's like this is where like RPGs came from. Like he found like his quest
Truly,
item
yeah.
like off of this guy. He's like, all right, fuck yeah, I'm like that much better now. I'm leveling up. And I do want to like that arc is kind of short lived, and like we said, the next arc is his time being trained by basically Bear Claw, and that's where he kind of like, okay, real quick. I do want to say the introduction to Bear Claw is amazing, and my favorite line Bear Claw says, maybe in the whole movie, is he says like he's like, hold up there, Pilgrim, but the thing he says is like the same dumb pilgrim I've been hearing for 20 days and smelling for 3.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, you don't know what you're doing out here, dude. Like everyone knows you're here.
not only do you not know what you're doing out here, but you're fucking it up for me as well.
Yeah.
Like-
Fucked up my grizzly bear hunt, bitch. Like, what do? I hunt grizz. It's
yeah, I
fucking
hunt
amazing.
Grizz, and he's like shaking the necklace at it. That's so good.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
whole arc, he really is like his sensei. Like, you know, it's I like in that whole arc, he gets literally like a crash course on like everything you're gonna encounter. Like, you have to be able to hunt your own food. You have to be able to hunt effectively.
You have to know to hide behind your horse when you go to shoot an elk. So that way,
shit is so cool. That scene was like the scene where I really bought into the movie 100%. Where he's like, it's an old trick, you know, and there you walk on the left side or like the opposite side of your horse. So
keep the horse in between you and the elk.
Yeah.
So that way the elk is calm.
Jeremiah Johnson says to Bear Claw, he's like, well, won't the elk see our legs underneath the horse? And Bear Claw's like, elk don't know how many legs horses have. It's so crazy. You know, he gets his first kill. You know, Bear Claw teaches him like how you can sleep out in the tundra without like real proper
like cover
shelter. Yeah. Like, and then the other thing I really like about that arc is, you know, you're in this hostile territory where you got two tribes of native people who are not necessarily friendly to you. And like the last thing he really learns from Bear Claw is like, you're like, when they show up, you just gotta go with the flow. Yeah, like they're either gonna steal your horses. If you can bribe them, you know, that's a good move. Like, just basically just being like, listen, man, like no matter how
their
good
land, no matter how good you are, it is their land.
Yeah. That's like the last lesson he learns, and it's a really important lesson throughout the entire movie. Like,
for sure. Yeah, he teaches them how to like deal with that, and like after, you know, being taught by Bear Claw, he actually like kind of is respected enough, but makes himself enough of a man where he's like respected by the Crow, and you see him like smoking a peace pipe with like the chief, you know, as he's on his own. But yeah, that's like there's just so many good characters. Like after that arc, we have like the next arc, which is the I guess it's like the mother who like lost her family to the Crow. It was not the Flatheads, it was the Crow again. Like, this is what the Crow will do to you if you fuck around. Like, you know, fuck around and find out. But yeah, and it's like that, it's really crazy because he comes across this woman who's like, all of her kids are dead out in the open in front of her, and she's like so distraught by this, she's kind of insane. Like, she's so grief stricken, she's
going
talking
mad
to them like they're alive, you know. It's
staying up by the grave and like refusing to come down and eat because she's that grief stricken.
Yeah, but even before then, like, she charges at Jeremiah Johnson and, you know, makes him drop his gun. And I love this line Jeremiah says to her. He's like, "Woman, I am your friend. We have graves to dig." And just like kind of gets right to it. Just like, I see what happened here. This is horrible. Like, we got to do this though. And like, kind of, I don't know. Like, he does kind of take care of her for a little bit there. But yeah, she's just like sits by the graves the whole time, and it's really wild because it doesn't even hit her all until way later in the night, and you just hear her just scream, like wailing over the realization, like, yep, this is what's happening. Like, my whole family's dead except for one boy who's mute, basically, like, from the trauma. Like, he's just like hiding in the cabin, and Jeremiah finds him. And that's another cool line, as he comes across the kid, and he like looks shocked, and he's like, "Boy, did you see all what happened?" Like, it's so he like he makes them biscuits, and like, you know, it's
makes them biscuits. I make a damn fine biscuit, boy. And
there's so much with this movie where it's like Jeremiah Johnson coming up on that whole scene, and just immediately being like, well, I know exactly what happened here, and I know that these two are fucked without someone like me, so I guess this is like what I'm doing now, is trying to, like, you know, help these people, because I think at that point he's still in a very optimistic mindset of like, well, I don't have to be like a neutral, not even a negative force, but a neutral force in this land. I can try to like help people, and you see him do it a couple times throughout the movie until I think ultimately realizing it's almost futile. But this is really a big moment of him just being like, I know what I'm doing now. I can help you guys get to a town and get on a ferry and go somewhere more suitable for a widowed wife with her, traumatized son. Because you can't stay out here. Like,
yeah, it is kind of like I want to ask you guys how you interpreted this, because when he says the whole like, I'm gonna get you into a town and on a ferry, and I'll get you back to where you need to be, and the mother like runs down from the hill, and that's when she's like, take him, like take my boy. Did you interpret that as like she is going to kill herself? Because that's how I kind of.
I think that that's kind of how I pictured that too. I think it's just like what Rob said. He had the moment of like, listen, like you're obviously not, like, you've lost, like, in the times being like, well, if you're just a woman, you don't have a man to like help you like maintain this homestead. It's you and this boy is not going to be enough to survive. I'm gonna get you back to a place where you can go to like civilization, so you can survive. I think she is just like she's so crazed and so grief stricken that she doesn't want to, but she still has the peace of mind to be like, my kid could probably still make a life for himself. So like, go take him, but like I'm done. I'm gonna give up.
I didn't. It didn't read necessarily as like suicide to me, but it did read as like, I have given up. Yeah. There's no coming back from this for me. And it is either like a kill herself thing or just I'm just gonna sit here and cry at this grave until
the elements overtake me.
Yeah, either the crow get me or a fucking wolf shows up. Not.
Well, she's told like she's touched, which means like the Native Americans will leave her alone, according to Jeremiah Johnson after this whole thing.
But horrific.
She is confirmed to have died later in the film.
Right.
But I also looked up her name, like the actress name. It's Aline Ann McLeary. The reason I did was because when she's saying take him, I was just like, holy shit! Like all of this was so good, but like that is she's a great actress or actor just in general.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck, these people are killing it. Like all of them are doing so good. But yeah, and then like. He takes this boy, his name's Caleb, and he chooses that name for the kid because he won't talk, and he says he admired that name. So now he's acquired a boy.
Yeah.
And that starts the next arc, where I titled this arc "Man Buried Up to His Head, Del Goo with an E."
Del Goo.
Where he literally does find like this dude who is just buried up to his head in the ground. And,
baking in the sun.
Baking in the sun, and Del Goo says something to him along the lines of like, "Happen to have another shade is sparse in these."
Yeah. There's a lot of great one-liners in this movie.
Yeah. His entire character is whereas like some mountain men, it's interesting. It's like a coping mechanism. The different coping mechanisms these guys have dealing with being out on the frontier, and this guy's whole coping mechanism is just, I'm fucking funny, and even if I'm the only one around, I'm gonna make myself laugh. Like, it's just so great. I love Del Goo. If Bear Claw isn't my favorite character, it's absolutely like Del Goo.
For sure, I'm with you.
He's really funny for sure. But like, it's almost like I don't know the term, but he's very chaotic. He's like, he goes along with Jeremiah Johnson on his ventures, but then will like let Jeremiah get into trouble. Like the whole thing where like they come across the other tribe, and Jeremiah gives them the horses and the pelts from like a bunch of other like dead Native Americans, and then Del Goo being like, letting him do that, and then after that deal has happened, be like, "What are you doing now? Like, you've dishonored them, and now they're gonna kill you if they can't give you a better gift." Like, it's just like, and he's like, "Well, you couldn't have told me that before I made the deal." Like, Delgu has a very chaotic energy that he brings to the table
for sure. Like he digs up Delgu, and then he's like, he helps Delgu get his pelts back from the people that buried him, and like did that whole thing to him. I think they are also Crow that did that to him.
Yeah.
And yeah, so he helps Delgu get these, like, kind of try and sneak back his shit from these guys, but then their horses make a noise, and Delgu just, like, shoots right away at these people, and, you know, Jeremiah Johnson's like, "No! Like, no! You motherfucker, now we gotta fight these guys," and they do fight them, and it's so funny, because Delgu does this throughout the entire movie. When you see him, just will be screaming shit like, "I'm Delgu, I'm the motherfucking man!" Like while he's attacking, like and I like I wrote this down because they win over these Native Americans. Like they kill them all, and Robert Redford, like Jeremiah Johnson, like hits Dell in the back, and he screams at him, "You skin-headed son of a bitch, you almost got me killed." But it's like Robert Redford. I haven't seen too many movies with him. This man has the most like clear, booming pronunciation and voice just maybe of all time. And when he yells shit like that, it's like powerful. Like it's just like insane. Yeah. It's so like to the core. And I don't know. I thought that was really cool because it is pretty consistent. Like when he's intense in the movie, it's really fucking intense.
It's funny because Robert Redford is just one of those actors who's been around forever, and most of the filmography of his I'm familiar with is like the stuff that he's doing now that he's in his like late 80s and like still churning out hits. But like this is like among the few movies of his I've seen from back when he was younger and in his prime, and I can see why he was like one of those 70s stars, like why everybody liked working with him. He's good. He's a
fucking hunk too. He's like a straight up fucking piece of ass.
I straight up like forgot that it was Robert Redford for a while, especially when he has like the big mountain man beard. I was fully like, no, this just is this.
That's Jeremiah Johnson.
That's Jeremiah Johnson. That's the real guy. But like all jokes aside, like that is what I really love in a movie is when when you have a name actor like that and you make me forget that that's a name actor, and I'm fully invested with, no, this is Jeremiah and I'm watching his plight, like, because I'm so disillusioned with movies where I'm just like, okay, so yeah, like I'm watching Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans run in front of a green screen against the purple gauntlet guy, like I see through everything, but like when a movie like this is able to make me be like, that's not Robert Redford, that is Mountain Man Jeremiah Johnson, and he's like finally learned how to catch a fish, and now he's not going to die out there, and he has his Hawkins 50 caliber rifle, like it brings back some of that magic of like of forgetting that I'm watching a movie, like, if that makes any sense. It does. I love when movies do that to me.
Yeah.
I think this movie also, and I just want to skip to the credits really quick.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought this up because I was just thinking about this.
This movie, in the credits, they thank a bunch of national park services for allowing them to film on location, and it's just another one of those things where it's like, God damn, they were like really out there, like
in the cold.
There's
like
no
in that river in the cold.
Yeah. Like it makes this like added realism to the whole thing where it's like, yeah, they didn't just like set up a fucking studio lot to look like, you know, a mountain pass.
No,
like,
they went into the mountain
pass.
With 1970s tech, it probably took them several days to hike into the middle of this fucking mountain range just so they can get these couple shots of the snow. Like it's crazy.
There's like a few scenes in this movie where I'm like, how do they do that if that wasn't real? Like, and like, I don't know. They're like even the hunting scenes, like when an animal goes down, I'm like, did he legit like get that animal?
I mean,
Like,
probably.
what happened?
That is the one
Like,
drawback to the 70s. Is if you're seeing an animal get killed, it probably was an animal getting killed.
Yeah. Like, Rob, you brought up that wolf scene like via text, and I was like, yeah, I don't know. It looks like they might have like he might have been actually fighting like big dogs, like huskies, because I know they're not real wolves, but they look like
they probably was rolling around with some trained, more docile wolves for that. But like the classic trick is to like get a wolf head puppet and then just stick it on somebody's hands and then just like jab at the actor from off screen, and it looks like a wolf is biting you. So that's probably what happened there. But
yeah,
that scene has a couple shots where the wolves like jump on his back, and it's like, yeah, that's just like a stuffed animal. But
for sure, like, they're throwing this stuffed animal at him. Yeah, but
honestly, like this movie does a lot to just have like a super authentic feel, which sells it really hard. And like even just back to Robert Redford, like he just feel like his character feels like someone you would actually like meet. Maybe not like nowadays, but like this feels like a real like human being. Like it almost feels like they just found a guy out in the wilderness and they were like, hey man, can we just like film you for a while? He's like, well, I'm Jeremiah Johnson. It's like, oh shit.
Do you know who I am?
Yeah.
I've been smelling you for days and hearing you for weeks.
Right. Yeah. I like during that, like, what is the Delgu kind of arc, is that, like, Jacob, you mentioned that the Flatheads kind of, like, pick them up, and they kind of celebrate Jeremiah Johnson. Although he thinks he's in trouble, they celebrate him for something. Like, Delgu, like, scalps those men who he takes his pelts back from after they kill him, and he tells Jeremiah Johnson, like, you can get, like, money for this, because the English, like, they want to take this, and like, they'll give you money for these scalps. So that's why I do that. It's a nice little trick to know out here. You leave it by the river with a sack, and they'll fill the sack with gold for you. So what happens though is when these like Native Americans show up, Delgu like slips the like basically the cache of like scalps onto Jeremiah Johnson's horse, because he's like, I can't tell if these guys are like Crow, which are the people we just killed, or Flatheads. Turns out they're Flatheads, and like Jeremiah Johnson's actually kind of like praised for getting those scalps, and that's where like the whole gift thing happens, where Jeremiah Johnson's like, I'll give you like he thinks he's in trouble, so he like gives him, he's like, you can have the ponies, you can have like whatever you want, just take that. And like that's where they're like, yo, don't up the ante, because if they can't give you a better gift, they're gonna kill you. It's insulting to do that.
Yeah.
But the gift he's given is like the chief's daughter. By the way, these are French Christian Native Americans.
Something that I
which
didn't
is also
even know
like just
existed.
an interesting detail.
Yeah.
They like speak French because the chief like learned their language, and he came from France, or like someone from France taught them. I don't know.
I think they say French Christian missionaries.
That's right.
Yeah.
So he gets the chief's daughter, and she's called the Swan, but he can call her whatever she wants.
I think Delgu says something along the lines of, they're savages, but surprisingly educated. It's
I also like Bear Claw when he talks about the Crow. He's like, they're the most handsome like warriors I've ever seen.
There's a lot of Native American love in this movie.
And that kind of like completes that arc. Delgu like leaves, and I am sorry we're kind of going through this like this. I know that's not the mission of this podcast, but the arcs are great. The next
arcs are all fantastic.
The next arc is basically, I just titled the family arc, and it's just like Jeremiah Johnson with Caleb and Swan, and they're just kind of building a house. That's kind of just something you can skip over, really. In conversation,
there's a lot of comedy to be found in those scenes too. Like when he's trying to teach her how to speak, and he's like, he teaches her how to say yes, and he goes, "Okay, that's good enough for now." Like,
she does. He makes or he eats her food and
hates
he's
it.
like, "Oh my god, so bad!" Like spits it out. There's a lot of
that scene is so funny because he like gets up from the fire and walks over and he's like, "Go on, boy, go get some food," and
then eats some
clear
jerky out of his bag.
He spits he spits it out. Like when he says, "Go get some food, boy," he's talking with food in his mouth, and then he spits it out as subtly as he can before grabbing jerky and eating it behind his back. It's like
she offers him another one. He's like, "I'm full.
I'm full. After that one bite I took, I'm full." Yeah.
That whole thing, honestly, top 10 love stories of all time, because they're like, he basically like owns her in a weird way at that point. And there's a scene I thought was so funny where she like gets up to go to bed and prays, and then like gets naked and then gets in under her like blanket, and Jeremiah Johnson like walks over to her and like lifts the blanket just because he hasn't seen a naked woman in like forever. And he's just like, "Good God," and like covers her back.
Literally says, "Lord."
Yeah. In my head when I saw that happening, I imagined him saying, "Lord, give me the strength to just go jack off behind a rock like a gentleman." But it's so interesting. Like they lived together for a long time and build this house, and they're like raising Caleb as their own. And it isn't until like deep in this arc where they finally like kiss. I don't even think it's implied that they ever like have like sex. And it's this funny thing where it's like, God damn, Jeremiah Johnson's a gentleman too. Like, what is there a single flaw in this man? Like winning the heart of the woman again, he basically owns. Like Delgu even tells him, he's like, "Yeah, if you don't want her, just head down to the port and sell her." It's like,
exactly.
he could have done like anything to this woman, and he's like, "No, I'm just,
He's,
I'm gonna
he's
like
pure of heart protagonist. Like this is where anime comes from. Is this character?
It's so wild. This arc like really hurt me so hard for so many reasons. Like I don't know when we're ending this arc, but this
arc ends when the missionaries show up. That's like
then this arc made me very happy. It's the next arc that makes me very sad.
Yeah, so these like these missionaries come, or like this like band of like what is a priest and like some troops.
U.S. I think Colorado state soldiers.
That's right. Yeah, they show up and they ask Jeremiah Johnson for help finding missionaries who their wagons broke down, and they're starving.
Jeremiah Johnson
is
a legend by this point.
At this point,
that's why they show up. They're like, he's known as being like a well respected with the natives and a guy who knows what he's doing better than anyone else, and he's the only one who can help him.
Yeah, and like at first he's like, "I'm just gonna point you in the direction." And they're like, "Well, we were really hoping you could actually like lead us there because we heard you're good with like knowing about the crow and like you know the landscape pretty good, so like we need help." And he's like, "I don't know." And they kind of guilt him. They're like, "You're just going to let these people die out there, And then it just kind of cuts to him leading them. And I do like a line that said, I forget who initiates this, but it's like, "So whatever happened with the war," or does anyone remember that line better than I do?
Whatever happened with the war or the war against the Mexican president? Something like that.
Don't you know it's over? Or I forget what I don't know. It's fucking cool. I fucked this whole.
It's been over for some time now.
Oh yeah, who won? And then it just cuts away from that. Yeah, I like that a lot. But yeah, he eventually has to take these guys. Like the quickest route is through Crow burial grounds. And that's sacred, like, and you don't want to go through there. You just know it's bad news, and they're like, "Well, what does it mean if we go through there?"
Well, we don't believe it.
Johnson's like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what would happen. I can only assume, like, the worst, basically.
Yep.
But
and they're like, "Well,
they kind of convince him to take him through there." Yeah.
Well, the priest says to Jeremiah, "You don't believe in that, do you?" And it's so. It's an interesting fucking character study on like these people who are just like, "Yeah, my beliefs trump all."
Yeah, right.
If I don't believe in it, it doesn't matter. Like
yeah. Sorry, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say there's a phrase that is said then that like it's said multiple times throughout the movie, and I had to look it up because I got the gist of what it was, but I wasn't exactly sure. When they approached that, Jeremiah Johnson's like, the crow believed the spirits guard this. It's big medicine. Like you don't want to go through this. And they say that a few times. They say that about the woman who they find, like with her family dead or whatever, that she's big medicine. And big medicine basically means like this is the, like it kind of comes from Native Americans believe that some people who are like successful and powerful, in particular, like a sexual manner, if you have sex with them, you kind of receive some of that power as well. And it kind of translates further through like time as just like this is the real deal, this is a big deal, like you don't want to fuck with this. This is as you're fucking with like the big players here, so you don't want to do that. So that's what big medicine is, I guess. But yeah, sorry, continue.
No, don't. Sorry.
Well, so they end up going through. Jeremiah Johnson points out the alternate route. And they're like, well, how long is that going to take? And he's like, it's like 20 miles, something like that, which, going through those mountains, 20 miles could be a couple days, depending on the terrain. And they decide they don't have time for that, and they're going through it. And Jeremiah Johnson's like, all right, well, don't fucking do that. But, like, I'm not going to do that. And the army lieutenant says to him, you're out here, right? Like you're out here on the frontier. You've got to hunt. Well, I'm out here and I've got to try. And after Jeremiah Johnson says you're not going to make it. And so Jeremiah Johnson leads them through and is basically just like, all right, assholes, just be like as respectful as you possibly can. Okay. Like, just try not to
don't make a noise.
Like, just try not to incur the wrath of every fucking spirit in this place, okay? We'll go through.
We'll be just fine.
What do these white people do? They start coughing and fucking not having a hold over their horses and shit. So they cause a disturbance. Although I think they were kind of fucked from the get-go just traveling through there, but
probably.
Yeah,
I mean,
probably. That's my own headcanon. That they were probably fucked, but
they get to they end up making it to the missionaries, and Jeremiah Johnson is basically just like, all right, well, bye. Like,
I did it. I'm going home now.
Yeah, you're welcome. And on the way back, he decides he's gonna go back through the burial ground again, and it's super weird. It's a very weird scene, and it does that thing that happens a couple times throughout the movie where people who have been out on the frontier will just stop cold all of a sudden because they notice like a change in, like, either they saw something move or they heard something off in the distance, like something so subtle the normal person like would not notice, right?
Yeah, he's picking up a vibe like, oh shit, something is horribly wrong. Like
yeah. And he as he's going through this burial ground, he stops and has one of those moments, and all of a sudden like takes the fuck off trying to get home, and devastating. I mean, I fucking hated this. This was the worst part of the movie.
This shit sucked so bad. Yeah, I remember this whole like last arc, which I titled Jeremiah Johnson on the hunt, apex predator. Like, it was like, this guy is in full send, like broken now. He goes home to find Swan and Caleb have been killed by the crow because of what he's done. Like, he helped these people. He did something he knew was like most likely gonna end up bad for himself and the others, but it was the worst possible scenario. Like, they're dead.
I wasn't. I didn't get it at first until he started to race home. I didn't get what he was like. What does he see that's different? And then I realized after when he gets back, I didn't understand it.
I had a moment where I was like, logically, how could he know? But then I was just like, frontier magic, baby. It's big medicine.
Well, no,
like,
it's because they took her like trinkets that she made and put them on top of the grave sites, like those skeletons.
Is that what happened?
That's what it was.
I didn't even notice
those those blue pieces of fabric.
You're the man.
That's what he noticed.
Because I didn't quite realize how either.
Because
awesome.
He gets back and like that fabric is like on the floor near her body. They like took it from her and then like put it on top of the graves.
Wow.
Yeah. That's what he noticed.
You're the man.
I'm a
the
little
man.
bit of I got that big medicine mountain magic. I just
apparently
see things that no one else sees. I'm kind of good like that. But no,
that's crazy.
That's fucking awesome.
But that whole
love that
his little like quest for vengeance is like it's really only like one scene where he goes out and he kills a bunch of them, and then the one dude that's left starts to do his like ritual, like that it was like, okay, I know this guy's about to kill me. I got to sing my like death song or whatever. And then Jeremiah just lets him live because he's like, oh no, like these are people too. Like it's gonna, if I like, I don't know. He has a bit of a really humanizing moment where even though he's lost everything, he's like, an eye for an eye makes the world go blind. Like
this is fully headcanon. He puts his wife and adopted child in bed and burns the cabin down. Mm-hmm. And then he basically starts his like death march essentially into the wilderness, and he runs into a pack of crow, sneaks up on them, kills like 4 or 5 of them, and then he's chasing the 6th guy down. That's what we're talking about, where and he corners this guy. He does like a death chant or like some kind of like, well, this is it, like this is what I do. And I like in my head, I like to think Jeremiah Johnson was like, if I let this guy live and he goes back to paints his shirt red and tells him who did this, they will just come at me forever, and that's what I want.
I think you're right, though. I think that's how I always saw that too. Was like he wants to get killed out there. He wants to go out like trying to kill these fuckers as many as he can until he's dead. Because that's how I even interpret him. Just like, I'm gonna sleep right here where I killed all these guys at their camp.
Yeah, like, that's so weird. That was so weird when he does that.
Yeah,
he walks back to their campsite and just falls asleep on a bear pelt, surrounded by these bodies, and it's just such a weird moment where it's like, dude, you are so broken. Yeah. You are so Dark Knight of the Soul right now. It's crazy. Like, it's so awesome.
And like the next bit of the movie is just like quick scenes of him like fighting.
Just a montage of him getting attacked and killing.
It gets to the point where he meets back up with Delgu, and then in the middle of them just chilling, one of the crow just attacks him. He kills the crow and then just goes back to drinking his coffee with Delgu.
And Delgu's like, so that's how they've been coming at you, right? One at a time. And I remember that scene. Weirdly enough, I remember that scene very differently as a kid, and I always thought that Delgu like straight up got fucking killed there. Like that's how I remember that scene, because Delgu screams like that. I thought he like legitimately got hit, and then seeing it again, I was like, "Oh yeah, that's right." Because he kind of sees him off later.
Well, I want to say like one of the most hardcore lines of all time, and I have a coworker who says this line to me all the time, and I never knew what it was from. Jeremiah Johnson, when he meets back up with Delgu, he asks him where he's going, and Delgu says to him, "To hell in the end, Jeremiah. To hell in the end." And it is such a hardcore line, dude. It's so badass.
Yeah. I do love that. What else happens there after that? Oh yeah, he kind of like I can't remember if he paints his shirt red first or he runs into that guy. I had to write down his name because I was like, I think his name's Quaylen. Where this like settler is residing in that house where
crazy
woman.
Yeah. He ends up back in the crazy old woman's house, and he like spooks a new settler who's hiding there with he's got his family hidden in like a grain cellar type thing. And it's so cool because like the new settler, after a couple moments like just being around him, is like, you're him, aren't you?
I love that.
It's so hard. It's
You're
so
him.
hardcore. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I may live my whole life and never have anybody walk up to me and go, "You're him, aren't you?" Like, it's so fucking hard. It's crazy. And the natives have built what Jeremiah Johnson initially assumes is a grave for Jeremiah Johnson on that site. And the guy's like, "Nah, man, it's more like a memorial or like a statue, you know, like we never know when they're coming, and then we'll come out here and see like a new animal bone or like offerings, because you're such a legend in these parts.
You're Hemi
like,
Turner out here.
Yeah, you're fucking huge. Like you're.
Can I get your autograph
You're
real
big,
quick?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, right.
Fuck my wife. Go ahead.
And Jeremiah Johnson, dude, it's so funny. He like flames this guy.
He's like, you can fuck my wife. He opens up that grain silo, sees the wife, and he goes, Lord. That's
I did when he opened up that to see the children hiding. I did joke to myself where I was like, "Give me the boy."
I need a new boy.
Stealing another child from the same place he got Caleb.
I need a new boy.
Yeah. Caleb, you're back. You're alive. Sounds like a full psychotic break.
No,
that little arc there is just like what you just said. It's just to show like that he is him. He is fully level, maxed out level. Mountain man, and then it's kind of confirmed at the end when he runs into the OG level 100 like max. Like he runs into, paints his shirt red or whatever the fuck.
Wait, he runs back into Bear Claw, which we talked about. earlier.
That's right. Yeah, that's the that's like the expository sort of epilogue. The true epilogue is seeing Paints' shirt red again, I think.
Yeah. But he runs into Bear Claw, and Bear Claw kind of explains his story, and he's like, well, an avalanche came and wiped out my home, and I lost my donkey, and I was barely able to swim out of there with my horse. But hey, what are you gonna do? There were no Grizz left anyway. And it's like, this fucking guy is so crazy. Like he's just It's like, all I do is hunt Grizz. And my character goes no deeper than hunting Grizz.
I know two things.
That's my whole thing.
Hunt Grizz, skin Grizz. That's what I know.
Yeah. And that's when you have that great scene where it's Jeremiah Johnson throws him a piece of the rabbit, and
all that stuff we said earlier. We're jumping over all over the place a little bit.
You cook good rabbit, Pilgrim. Was it worth it? Was worth the trouble? What trouble? And then the movie has a strange ending. I'm not gonna lie. The movie it really, just because of the final shot that it freeze frames on, is goofy kind of. But Jeremiah Johnson is heading up like a mountainside and sees a native out on a horse.
Paints his shirt red.
It's the chief of the Crow.
Well, okay, I was just trying to. It's revealed moments later to be Paints with the shirt redders, and so he paints his shirt red. Lifts his hand in kind of welcoming, hey, doing that whole how thing.
I think it was more of a peace offering, okay, I've sent all my best men at you and you're still here, okay, fine, let's call an end to this, you're welcome here, I'm letting you go, I'm lifting my hand up to show you I'm kind of like a surrender almost, hey, look, I'm not.
I mean, listen, if he wanted to fight him anymore, he wouldn't have raised his hand at all. He would have just
Yeah.
started barreling towards him on the horse,
Shot him,
right?
right.
Like that.
I think it was meant to be a
is
silent, like, we're all good. Hey, we're all good. Like, I know we killed your family. You've killed, like, all of my warriors. We're even now.
All my homies lay dead in your path. So, and it freeze frames on this like weird shot where Jeremiah Johnson's like raising his hand, in kind of a, an agreement or, like meeting him respectfully, and just gives this like big hokey smile. And like takes him a couple seconds to muster, and
like,
then it freezes.
Yeah, I did kill all your men, didn't I? You probably feel like a real piece of shit down there. Look at me up on this mountain, and you're all the way down there like a little fucking loser. How does that make you feel?
I like kind of saw it as a smile, but I kind of saw it as like a I don't know, some sort of like pained expression,
Like baring his teeth.
Yeah,
in a way.
Like I don't know. That one was weird to read, but yeah.
And some say he's up there still.
Yeah. Music, by the way, done by Tim McIntyre. And it's just awesome because it's about what Jeremiah Johnson is doing. It's fucking great.
He's literally just reciting the plot as he sings. It's so fucking good.
Yeah. It's a great movie. I don't have much more to say. I feel bad for us going on as long as we did. I fucking love this movie. I'm glad it lived up to how I remembered it and even better. Yeah. And I'm glad you guys liked it a lot.
It's a great one. I again fully was expecting like Clint Eastwood 70s cheese of like man with no name shows up in a town, saves the day, and then goes about his merry way. But no, it's great. It was
feeling lucky. Pilgrim,
feeling lucky, Pilgrim. It had some cheese to it, but it was a good kind of cheese. It was like a well-aged cheddar.
And you said this, Jacob, like you found it to be extremely comfy, like watching.
Yeah, it was a very like
it is
mainly the first half up until when the Colorado troops show up is when I was like, this just feels like. I just felt like nothing bad was gonna happen to him, like, and then the second half of the movie is like, no, everything bad is gonna happen to him. Like the whole first half. I could have
two movies of both of that, like one where it's just easy, kind of frontier living and or whatever, just
right,
or vicious killing.
My thought was like I my thought process. I didn't take notes, but like if I were, I guarantee you my notes would have been like for that first half of the movie would have been like. God damn, I would love to just go back to where life was as simple as like you kill the animal, you skin it, you eat the meat, you go out, you kill another animal, and then I thought, well, yeah, but I mean like tuberculosis and typhoid and all that, and the elements. And I'm fat, I probably wouldn't have fared too well, so I think I'm good. No, it was extremely like. It really romanticized this life of like, yeah, no, anybody can just go live off the land and be self-sustaining, and
it rocks.
It ultimately was his dream. He was like, I'm gonna go into the wild and I'm gonna be a mountain man, and the whole beginning of the movie is like him doing it and like it being everything he wanted and more, and then the second half is realizing like oh shit, it's like it is dangerous out here, and but I can overcome. It's
also
very,
there's
very
like a
good.
weird like that scene, that last conversation he has with Bear Claw kind of clicks a little something with something Bear Claw says way earlier in it, where Jeremiah asks him if he ever gets lonesome. And it's almost like what Jeremiah went through, like he now kind of understands why Bearclaw might just fully be, chooses now maybe to be lonesome. He says something like, I could never find the tracks to a woman's heart, but it almost seems like it's like he might have had what Jeremiah Johnson had, and he's like, you see what like can happen out here, like. I don't know. That might be my own headcanon again, but
doesn't Bearclaw say that he literally did get a wife from a tribe and sell her?
I don't remember.
I don't remember that. That could be.
I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think that happened, because are you talking about the end or the beginning? Because he mentions he was like he had a wife at some point, but then he was like, I can track a grizz for days, but you can't find no tracks in a woman's heart.
it's that scene. I'm pretty sure when in the training montage, if you will, in the beginning, he asks him, if he ever gets lonesome, right? I'm pretty sure he says he sold a Native American woman who he was married
Yeah,
to.
I do remember that. I think that he said he had someone, and then it's either he had someone and then lost her to the elements or sold her, like you said. I'm 90% sure he mentions he had a wife at some point.
Yeah, I think he said he sold her, which which it could also again, the other thing is with Jeremiah Johnson being so pure of heart, I wasn't ever expecting when he gets Swan, as his wife. In my head, I'm like, he's not gonna assault her. The issue being back then,
you could
concept of assault, you could do whatever you want, so it's well, what's gonna happen, and so I like to think that maybe Bear Claw had the heart not to rape his the wife he basically probably got for being honorable within a tribe, or traded for, but I'm 99% sure he says I sold her. Yeah,
something like that.
So whatever.
Great movie, loved it.
Great movie, so good. Top 10. I mean, 10 out of 10 for me. This is again, this is up there on Barry Lyndon, where it's just I just love a character who's just I'm gonna go do my own shit, and I'm either gonna die doing it or I'm gonna figure it out. But either way, I'm making this choice right now.
It's the ultimate fantasy. It's fucking badass.
I'd also probably I didn't like the second half as much as I liked the first, and that's the only reason I would give it a 9 out of 10. But I think on rewatch, it would definitely be I think it could very easily jump to a 10 out of 10. I liked this one a lot.
I was gonna say 9 out of 10 until I watched it. I watched it yesterday, and then I watched it again this morning. And on my rewatch, I was like, this is the easiest movie for me to watch ever. I love everything of what's happening. This is a 10 out of 10 for me. It's so easy for me to get through. I fucking love it.
Yeah, it slaps super hard.
So yeah.
This is a movie I've also, real quick, Brennan Borse, who's been a guest on this show, I, for years, have been trying to get him to watch this, and I wanted to text him this morning and say, have you still never seen this movie? Because I'm pretty sure Rob and Jacob really like it, and it's just another reason I wanted to be dude, just watch, what's going on? You watch all these other movies, why don't you give this any attention? It's so strange to me.
That's why I like this podcast, is because I definitely wouldn't have seen this one had you not recommended it. I would not have given Midsommar another watch, and I'm really glad that you guys now have experienced Widows. That's what this is all about. It forcing people to step out of their comfort zones and see things that they wouldn't have seen otherwise, and get more people watching some pretty goddamn good movies. So, Jeremiah Johnson, if you still haven't seen it and you just listened to us spoil the entire plot, you can go out and watch it on you can rent it on pretty much any service that streams movies. I don't know that it's available for free on anything.
It's free on Vimeo. That's how I watched it.
It's free on Vimeo? Okay, cool. Yep. So you can watch it on Vimeo, and then you can rent it in a whole bunch of other places, but it's a great one. It's well worth the rental or digital purchase cost. Jeremiah Johnson, great movie. And then last order of business, we got to assign the homework for next month's movies. So this next episode, you're listening to this as early as May 1st. You're gonna have until June 5th to go out and watch these movies. You got a whole month. You watch 3 movies. Don't do what we do and cram it all into the couple days before. You can space them out, 1 movie a week. You got plenty of time. I'm mainly talking to one of our co-hosts when I say this. But who wants to give their recommendation? Who wants to go first for the next episode?
I'll go first. Have either of you ever seen A Simple Plan by Sam Raimi?
No, I can't say I have.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I'll do that. I like that one a lot. It's with Billy Bob Thornton and Bill Paxton.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about some small town folks that run into some money. That's all I'm gonna say.
Alrighty.
Cool.
That sounds interesting. I'll okay. Jake's recommendation is a simple plan. Rob, what are you gonna recommend?
I think you should probably go before me.
I think I should go before you because you want to see if you have to pull an eclectic one out of your ass first.
Oh, no, I mean...
All right, we've if you listen to the Buttery Males podcast, one of our more recent episodes, we gushed about this one for like a solid 10 minutes on a tangent for something else. I was gonna recommend something else for this next episode instead, but I figured we might as well get this out of the way because I wouldn't mind seeing this one again. It's a great one. It has a lot more of the cheese that I was worried that I was going to get with Jeremiah Johnson, but this is if Jeremiah Johnson is an aged sharp cheddar, then this one is a sharp Gruyere that's been chilling for a while. Tombstone. I don't remember who directed it, but another Billy Bob Thornton and Bill Paxton jaunt. We got its star-studded cast: Kurt Russell, Sam Elliott, Bill Paxton, Billy Bob Thornton, Michael Biehn, Powers Booth. Some amazing star power. It's a great, cheesy, goofy, fun Western that has a lot of great performances. It's a fantastic flick. Tombstone, my recommendation for next episode. Rob,
Awesome.
Nice.
have I stalled enough for you?
Yeah, so I talked with Jacob before the podcast, and he asked me if I was going to recommend Tombstone, and I said if you wanted to, I would come up with something a little bit more, not so mainstream, something that'll challenge everybody a little bit more. And I think I've come up with that. And honestly, this is going to be a bit more of a challenge than normal because it's challenging people to get out of their comfort zones, and by that I mean their houses, because I'm picking in theaters now the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Oh my fucking god.
Right.
Which I will hate. I will hate so much.
I am aggressively upset by this right now. I think I may just cancel the watch list at this point. I think we're done. I don't think we
go back on hiatus.
I don't think we need to do any more episodes. I think we've reached a nice natural conclusion with Jeremiah Johnson. I think we can just say, I think we can just go, and some say the Watchlist Podcast is up there still, and just let that be that. I don't think we need to do another one actually anymore. Okay, so for next, you have until June 5th. Go watch Tombstone, A Simple Plan, and I guess the Super Mario Brothers movie. Rob just wants an hour-long discussion of us also not liking Chris Pratt's Mario voice. That's all he wants out of this. All right. Well... All right, so that's your homework, everybody, for next month. Go out and watch those 3 movies. In the meantime, if you can't wait to hear us talk again, we have a weekly podcast that we also do called the Buttery Males Podcast, where we just kind of shoot the shit and talk about some crazy stuff that happens in our day-to-day lives. We have some guests. We just recorded an episode last night with Dave from the Three Little Pigs podcast. That was a lot of fun. I don't know for sure if that's out at the same time that you're listening to this, but we have a backlog of a bunch of other great content. A lot of other interesting guests have been on. You can find us on Instagram at @TheButteryMalesPod. You can join our Discord, follow us on Twitter, YouTube, anywhere you can find podcast content. Check it out. Tell your friends about us. Anything I'm forgetting, fellas?
No, I think you fucking nailed it, dog.
All right. Well, goodbye, everyone.
Super Mario Brothers!